The Radiance of Pokémon wisdom. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326, Negotiating with Jenga. Master Chaozy, this is the 5th place we have passed, and the food is almost gone. If we don't find a way out, we will all starve to death here. Beachin looked at Zahu worriedly. He and Zahu did not have a superior-subordinate relationship. Originally, he only needed to call Zahu doctor, but these days, Zahu has long become the backbone of the team, and everyone is convinced by him, so they all add the honorific of master. Is it the 5th place? Zahu turned around and looked at the growing team. These days, they passed 5 levels in a row. Every time they passed a level, there would be more people to be rewarded. The number of people has also increased from the initial 10 to the current 100. Most of them are from the water fleet, and they are members of ZIO A and ZIO B. A small number are ZIO C. The last one is the least in the Fire Rock team, with only 20 or so. Fortunately, Zahu's prestige is high enough, and after these days of fighting side by side, Beachin and Kana and others have eased their relationship with Yinxiang, and there is a bit of subtle comradeship, so the later members of the water fleet did not take action. However, looking at these hundreds of people, Zahu didn't have much pride in his heart. He only felt a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. Although he was not in the same group with this group of people, these people called him adults, so he had to take them out and find a way to survive. Withdraw everyone back, no need to explore outside. If we don't completely break this thing, even if we break this illusion, it will be meaningless. There will be another one next, Zahu said. Beachin hurriedly took action and withdrew the people around. These days, Pumice Road, Enchanted Forest, Ghost Swamp, Big Rock Mountain, all kinds of scenes have emerged one after another. Armored Bird, Absol, Swampert, Banjira, and all kinds of vicious Pokémon have also come one after another. Everyone has gone through a lot of hardships to get here, but if we just repeat it like this, we will just fall into a dead loop and can't get out at all. Do you have any ideas? Zahu said. Beachin and his men looked at each other in bewilderment. If you ask them how to fight, they have ways to do it. They can organize and manage, but when it comes to the power of the unknown totem, they really can't do it because of their blind spots in knowledge. Zahu glanced at them and knew that they were unreliable. He still had to rely on himself. There was very little information about the power changes of the unknown totem, and there were not many in the animation. Zahu was most impressed by the crystal tower. In the animation, Xiaozi and his men ran all the way, and soon they saw Xiaomi. So, when they broke it at the beginning, Zahu was not very worried. But now, Zahu found that he thought too much. This Jenga is much more playful than Xiaomi. Or, it may be, that this time he went out too hastily, without Xiaozi, Meowth and Kachiro, so there was no luck bonus for the protagonist. Do you believe me? Zahu said. Yes. Beachin and his men said without hesitation. Okay, it's hard to force Jenga out with normal routines. I want to take a risk, Zahu said. Risk? Beachin, Kana and others' faces suddenly changed. After these days of getting along, everyone was used to Zahu's orders and knew Zahu's style. He was usually calm, but he would go crazy when he took risks. For example, a few days ago in the Ghost Swamp, Zahu rushed towards a group of giant swamp monsters, and everyone almost didn't get out. And last time, Zahu didn't even discuss it with them and acted directly, which means that Zahu was still somewhat confident. But now that he discussed it with them, doesn't it mean that Zahu himself is not sure? But he wanted to refuse, but found that he really had no choice, so he had to let it go. Ignoring the worried expressions of these people, Zahu took a deep breath and shouted to the sky, Genji UI, come out. I know you know our situation and I know you want to play with us, but we have no food to eat now. If we continue to play, we will die. How about we make a bet and set a final level? If I can pass it, you let us out, and we won't bother you. If I can't pass it, all of us will become ghosts and play with you. Beachin's face changed again. Finally, they knew why Zahu hesitated for a while before. He actually wanted to use a death and becoming a ghost to play with Jenga as a bet. This bet was too big. But after Zahu shouted, there was no response from Jenga for a long time. You shout together. Zahu looked at Beacon and others and said. Beacon's people nodded immediately. Although they were doubtful and even afraid in their hearts, they still followed through and shouted loyally. The shouting continued for a long time. When Beacon and others were about to give up, Jenga appeared out of nowhere in the sky. He looked like he hadn't woken up yet. He looked at Zahu and actually spoke directly. What are you arguing about? I'm having fun with your other two companions. The other two companions? Hamura, Izumi? Zahu asked curiously. He was not surprised that Jenga could talk. Ghost type and psychic type Pokémon, if they are strong enough, can use superpowers to communicate. Besides, this Jenga is special among the special ones. I don't know. Anyway, we are all toys, just like you. Jenga said indifferently. I'm a toy, but you don't want your toys to break. We are all starving to death. How can you bear to do this? Zahu said. How can you bear it? My master, the former king of this empire, sealed me in stone for thousands of years regardless of my opinion. Isn't that cruel? If I hadn't been locked up for too long, I wouldn't even bother to hate you humans. Now all of you are going to die. Now I give you a chance to play with me. This is my way of keeping you alive. Otherwise, it's the same if I start to destroy you now. Jenga's tone was violent and sharp. As soon as the voice fell, the sky and the earth changed color, the flowers and plants withered, and all things lost their lives. The red land turned blood red, and the blue sky turned into a terrifying purple-black color. It was gloomy and terrifying, as if the heavens were angry, and it seemed as if they had entered the netherworld. The cool wind whistled, and Beacon and other members of the water fleet felt cold all over and subconsciously tightened their bodies. Seal you up. Aren't you the Pokémon that the Emperor arranged to protect? Zahu said in surprise, not affected by the terrifying scene around him. This Jenga has lived for who knows how many years and can always exist in a super evolved form. It is estimated that it is no worse than an ordinary mythical beast. The power of the ghost type illusion is even more amazing. Under the powerful mental control, Beacon and other well-trained members of the water fleet were also scared. It's just that it's very unfortunate that Zahu is similar to ordinary people in other aspects, but his mental power is so strong that it doesn't seem like a human being. If he is not in a coma, Jenga's mental power can't cause him any psychological pressure. So not only is he not panicking, but he grasps the key points very accurately. At first, he thought that Jenga was a violent and vicious Pokémon, but later he found that this Jenga didn't seem to be cruel but just playful, but in his heart he still thought that this Jenga was left by the people of the ancient Atlantis Empire to guard the ruins. The reason why he has been playing with Zahu and others is because he is too bored to stay in the ruins, so he plays with Zahu and others. He may even intend to kill Zahu and others, and then extract their souls to accompany it forever. So he deliberately used this bet to attract Jenga to appear. But now it sounds like it's not the case at all. What is there to protect? There is nothing here. Jenga said. Then why don't you just let us go? You said it was your master who sealed you up, so now we have accidentally unsealed you, which is also a help to you. We have no hatred. Zahu said. That's not the way it is. Although my master is not good to me, he is still my master. Outsiders who enter this palace without permission will be killed. Especially a group of you, who attack here randomly. As soon as you come here, you must not be good people. I don't kill you, just because you are having fun. Jenga said. Outsiders who enter without permission will be killed. This happened thousands of years ago. Now your masters are all dead. You can also go out directly. Ghost Pokémon have a long lifespan, especially Jenga like you, whose lifespan is close to 10,000 years, so you still have a lot of time. Now that you are out, don't dwell on the past, but look to the future. The world outside is vast and unlimited, and you can play with it at will. Especially there are many pranks, so you can have more fun. Zahu said. I'm not familiar with the outside world. What's fun? Jenga said. Next. Continue playing. Don't make trouble. Zahu's expression darkened. Don't make trouble? What's your tone? Shouldn't I be the one saying this to you? Touching Mewtwo's Pokeball on his waist, Zahu was not going to do it anymore, so he decided to just show his cards and start to blow it up. Just as the thought flashed through his mind, the surrounding scenery suddenly changed and turned back to the original palace ruins. Zahu and his group stood at the place where they first found Jenga. Chapter 327, Ruins Guardian Beast. Back. Beacon looked at the walls in astonishment. We are saved. Beacon and his group were stunned for a moment, then they were filled with ecstasy, hugging each other to celebrate their escape from death. Zahu looked at the surprised faces of the group of people and scolded them unhappily. Are you out already? Why are you all so happy so early? Hearing Zahu's scolding, several people calmed down a little. Beacon boldly asked Zahu, Lord Cheogsi, haven't we left the illusion? But, have we left the ruins? Do you really think that's all? Zahu asked back. Feeling Zahu's displeasure, Beacon and others calmed down their excitement and held their breath, not daring to say more. I still don't know what Jenga's personality is like. He let us leave the illusion, even though he didn't agree. But one thing is certain, Jenga won't let us go easily. This ruins is more dangerous than we originally thought. Zahu said with a heavy face. Normal people can use logic to reason, but Jenga's thinking is really like a mystery. Logic and other things are completely ineffective. Beacon, you first take some people from Zao back along the original route. Yingxiang, you people from the Magna team also go out through the hole you dug. Although theoretically you should not be able to get out, you should try it and see the situation. In addition, Connor, you take some people to continue exploring the road outside, and the remaining people will study this room with me. Zahu said. Understood. Beacon and his friends followed suit without thinking, and quickly divided into several groups and took action. Zahu turned around and looked at the murals around him. The original murals contained unknown totems, which were very rich, so rich that Zahu almost couldn't understand them. Now that the unknown totems are gone, the content is much simpler. Zahu walked to a wall and looked at the ancient text on it. He felt a little familiar. After thinking for a while, he took out a mobile phone from his pocket and swiped a picture of a broken wooden slip. Although the picture was a little blurry, he could still vaguely recognize that the text on it was similar to the text on the stone wall. The original power, the order that creates everything, the coexistence of creation and destruction, the ancient power of the wilderness, the giant stone of the sky, the power contained in every Pokémon. Zahu translated the simplest words, thinking in his heart that this wooden slip photo was the one that Vladimir got from Dago in the Pokémon special, which was something related to the legendary Pokémon Mega Evolution Origin monolith. And now the text on the picture overlaps with the stone wall here, which means that this is the thing related to the Pokémon Mega Evolution Origin monolith. It's really an accidental achievement. He completed the undercover mission of the Special Search Officer and discovered the professor's mission. Master Cheogsi, did you find anything? Zenshu, a member of the water fleet, asked curiously after seeing Zahu staring at the mural for so long. Nothing. Zahu said calmly. Now was not the time to study. He just took a photo, memorized it silently, and continued to look at the murals around him. Soon, his eyes were fixed on a painting. A man wearing a crown sat high on the throne, with a Jenga floating on his shoulder, an Absol lying beside his right leg, and a ferocious Banjira standing on the left. In front of him, the people knelt and surrendered, and Kyogre and Groudon at his feet lowered their proud heads, with humble and flattering faces. This is the 23rd king of the ancient Clantis Empire, Zahu said. Such an arrogant painting, except for the last king of ancient Clantis. It is estimated that no one would draw like this. However, judging from the painting, this king of ancient Clantis was so arrogant that it was no wonder that the whole country was destroyed. However, there is some information in this painting. The strongest Pokémon of this king of ancient Clantis 23 are Jenga, Absol, and Banjira. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or intentional. These three Pokémon can all Mega Evolve. Only Jenga is here. What about Absol and Bangira? Although normally, Absol and Bangira would not be alive until now, it's hard to say if special methods are used. If it doesn't work, there is still technology like freezing. Frozen for 1,000 years, and then revived again. Such plots are very common in novels and animations. Zahu's thoughts just flashed through his mind, and he heard a few loud noises. At a glance, he saw an Absol with purple light all over his body chasing Beacon and others. Then there was a tremor, and a brutal and ferocious Bangalore strode after Kana and others. In the last game, if you beat these two and find me again, I will let you go. Jenga's voice suddenly rang out. Zehu was shocked. Did Jenga agree to him? What is it planning? Zehu looked over and saw that these two Pokémon were not illusions created by Jenga, but real Pokémon. He recalled the scene of fighting with Absol and Bangela in the illusion before, and he vaguely realized something. However, the situation was critical, and Zehu did not have time to say anything. He threw the Pokeball and released Golduck and Togekiss. Golduck against Bangela, use Water Cannon. Togekiss against Absol, use Magic Flash. Zehu issued two orders at the same time. Bangela is a rock type, and Absol is a dark type. Golduck and Togekiss just happened to restrain them respectively. Golduck opened his mouth wide, and a thick water column suddenly erupted, bombarding Bangela. Bangela suddenly suffered a strong attack, and an angry expression appeared on his face. He did not retreat a step, and broke through the water cannon head-on. Purple light flashed in his mouth, and a dark wave violently bombarded, hitting the water fleet in front. Although the members of the water fleet tried their best to resist, they were still all blown away, and fell to the ground. Fortunately, the humans in this world are extremely resistant to Pokémon attacks, otherwise they would have died here. All members of the water fleet come here to attack Bangela, and I will deal with Absol, Zehu said. Bangela is still a rock type Pokémon, which is restrained by the water type. With so many Pokémon of the water fleet taking turns, even if they can't win, they can delay the battle long enough. Absol is a pure evil type, and is not restrained, so it is better for Zehu, the fairy type master, to do it himself. Yes. The members of the water fleet responded in unison, and attacked Bangela one after another. Bangela roared repeatedly, and evil waves kept gushing out of his mouth. The members of the water fleet did not give in. Although Bangela was more powerful than they expected, there was strength in numbers. Even if they really couldn't beat it, so many water-type Pokémon together could hold it off for a long time. Zehu, who turned to face Absol, was much simpler. He said calmly, Pockis, the divine bird. Tockis's body shone with radiance, and a crystal blue light emanated from its body surface. It hit Absol directly, and knocked Absol away. Absol took the blow, and showed a painful expression, but almost at the same time, rushed towards Tockis again, with sharp fangs, using the bite trick. Wave missile, Zehu said. Tockis folded its wings, and an energy combat bullet condensed, and hit Absol's open mouth. It hit in an instant, and also hit Absol's mouth, easily knocking Absol away, and hitting the wall behind. Although Tockis is a flying and fairy type Pokémon, it is a rare alternative that can learn a fighting type trick like Wave Missile, that ordinary fighting Pokémon cannot learn. Brick Split, Zehu shouted. Pockis immediately took advantage of the victory and pursued. His right wing shone brightly and suddenly chopped down, slashing on Absol's head. His attack was fierce and fierce, forcing Absol into a corner. Pockis, don't hold back, attack with all your strength, Light Dance, Zehu said. Pockis immediately used magic to shine, and a crystal light shone from his body, forming a protective shield. Then, with the attack of the divine bird, he violently crashed into Absol, really merciless. Absol was knocked away again, smashing many walls, and buried in a pile of rubble. But Pockis hadn't relaxed yet. A purple light suddenly burst out from the ruins, and a terrifying energy wave emanated, breaking the rocks. Absol was seen in the purple light, with a hideous look, a demonic killing aura in his eyes, and the hair on his shoulders stood up, as if he had grown a pair of wings. Another super evolution? Zehu's expression was slightly dark. Ancient civilizations represent mystery, but in many cases they are really dangerous. Just like Mega Evolution, in order to complete Mega Evolution in Kalos, you must meet the Mega Evolution Stone, Evolution Keystone, and the bond between the trainer and Pokémon. However, there is a tricky Mega Evolution wave in the Kingdom of Azoth, which can skip the above three conditions and evolve directly. It seems to be the same here. Chapter 328 First Kill. Mutwo, help secretly, Zehu said secretly in his heart. The Mega Evolved Absol was like taking medicine. Although it could not defeat Togekiss yet, it would be very difficult for Togekiss to defeat it. This is a dark attribute, and its strength is also very good. If I don't attack with full force, the damage to it by ordinary special moves can be ignored. If I attack with full force, I will have to come out of the Pokeball, otherwise your Pokeball will explode. Mewtwo's voice sounded in Zahu's heart. First use a Miracle Eye to make your psychic attack effective. That's it. Zahu said. Miracle Eye? What is this special move? Mewtwo said. Just like see-through can make fighting type attacks cause damage to ghost type Pokémon, Miracle Eye can make psychic type attacks hit dark type ones. Zahu explained calmly, took out his mobile phone from his pocket, and played the teaching video of Alakazam learning Miracle Eye. Mewtwo watched the teaching video with a little curiosity. Although its psychic ability is so strong that it cannot be restrained by ordinary attribute restraint, it is always good to be able to crush it with psychic ability. After watching, Mewtwo had a subtle expression in the Pokeball. He first secretly used a special move on Absol, and then secretly sent a petrification skill. Absol, which was originally rushing at a high speed, was forced to stop in midair, and then was hit to the ground by a magic flash of Togekiss the next second. It actually works. How do you know that I can learn this special move? Mewtwo asked in surprise. I've said it before, I know you better than you do. Zahu said calmly, just kidding. I'm really not sure if you can learn other special moves, but the Eye of Miracles is a special move that you can learn as you level up in the game. Of course I remember it, and I'm curious, why can't you do it? You didn't do anything to my body? Mewtwo said. Can you trust each other a little? What will I do to you? And can you be a little confident in your own strength? With your ability, I want to dissect you, and you won't find it. Zahu said. You sold out all those who trusted you. Mewtwo said disdainfully. Zahu's expression froze. What? What did you do in my house? Why are you so good at stabbing me in the back? Are you still the Mewtwo that I know who got hit by 20 feet? Get hit by 20 feet? What do you mean? Mewtwo said. No, we just need to work. Beat these Pokémon, and I'll help you find a way to Mega Evolve. Zahu said. Seeing this, Mewtwo didn't say much. He hid in the Pokeball and secretly used telekinesis to assist Zahu. It must be said that the use of psychic attributes in reality is really a bug-like ability. If it were a Pokémon with other attributes, even if it was stronger than Mewtwo, it would not be able to hide in the Pokeball like this, and would have to come out. It's not like Mewtwo hiding in the Pokeball, using petrification and telekinesis. Every time Absol was about to attack Togekiss, he would be frozen, and then beaten by Togekiss. In the palace, in a shadow somewhere, Jenga's body flew out of the shadow, feeling the invisible, but clearly existing superpowers on Zahu, and smiled triumphantly. What's going on is that this is the real show. It's really fun. No one noticed the hidden Jenga, but the battle became more intense. When Absol completed its super evolution, Bangira also completed its super evolution almost at the same time. Evil energy waves erupted, and the rocks on the ground kept rising, knocking the lobsters away one by one. The water fleet was almost in a state of being beaten. Fortunately, the water fleet had enough people, and Zahu's Golduck helped, so they could barely hold on. On the other side, Absol was beaten and crushed by Togekiss with the help of Mewtwo. But even so, Absol's eyes were still fierce, and the evil purple-black energy continued to spread from the earth and into the body, and the power in the body was strengthened step by step. Even though he was hit on the ground by several waves of missiles from Togekiss, his injuries had reached a critical point, and he was almost on the verge of death, but he was still fighting fiercely. Mewtwo, can you knock this Absol out? Zahu asked. This Absol had completely lost its mind. It was clearly in a critical state, but it was still fighting frantically. If it continued to fight, it would surely die. There is no way. This Absol's power has reached the level of a king recognized by you humans. With the power given to it by the entire ruins, I can win, but I can't knock it out. Mewtwo said. Okay. Zahu took a deep breath. A hint of hesitation appeared on his face, and then a sharp light flashed in his eyes and said, Pockis, use all your strength to use the wave missile, and then the magic flash. The power of Pockis surged, and the wave missile condensed, and hit Absol's head directly, and then the magic flash hit Absol's lower abdomen directly, followed by a series of violent attacks. After a long time, Absol finally couldn't bear it. With a bang, it fell to the ground and was completely dead. Zahu's face was slightly heavy. Whether in his previous life or this life, he lived in a harmonious environment. Whether it was a chicken or a dog, he had never killed one. This was the first time he personally commanded the killing of a Pokémon. This was completely different from the concept of protecting Pokémon that he advocated after crossing over, and he felt a little uncomfortable for a while. However, when he heard the roar of Bangela behind him, Zahu immediately regained his usual calmness and commanded, "Pokémon, use the wave missile at Bangela." Pokémon flapped his wings, and an energy bullet condensed between the two wings, shot out, and hit Bangela's chest. Bangela screamed in pain and couldn't help but take a step back. "Pokémon, continue, split the tiles," Zahu shouted. Bangela's Rock plus Evil is 4 times restrained by the fighting type. With the assistance of Mewtwo, Pokémon can easily beat Bangela with a fighting trick. The Water Fleet and others saw that Zahu actually knocked down Absol alone, and they couldn't help but help and assist together. With everyone working together, the problem was solved faster, and soon, Bangela fell completely. Adjust and rest, split into 2 groups, one for the injured, and one for the uninjured. Zahu put away Pokémon. Although he would never kill 2 Pokémon in a row, he had to adapt to his different identities. In a sense, this was the undercover life he had imagined. It was not a problem for others to die or for himself. The members of the Water Fleet took the initiative to split into 2 groups to take care of themselves. The uninjured will split into 2 more groups. One group will take care of the injured, and the uninjured will follow me, Zahu said to the remaining team members. The members of the Water Fleet who were not affected immediately split into 2 more groups. Chapter 329 The Emperor's Bedroom. "Connor, you met the Absol just now in this house, right?" Zahu said as he and a group of people stopped in front of a door. After dealing with Absol and Bangala, the remaining problem to be solved is to find Jenga. Zahu asked Beechan and Kana. Beechan's story was nothing to say, except that when he walked to the door, Bangala suddenly jumped out and continued to chase him all the way. Kana's story was more valuable for a search. "Yes, sir, just when we encountered that house that couldn't be opened and forced the Iron Claw Lobster to open the door, the Absol suddenly jumped out from inside." Kana looked at the house with lingering fear. Just now, Absol suddenly pounced on him and almost bit him to death. Zahu walked to the door of the room and looked at the strange pattern on the door. He frowned slightly. It was the Mittelek code again. Why was it everywhere? Isn't this the ruins of a palace? Since it is a palace for people to live in, what do you want to do by setting up so many things? Zahu pressed his hand on the door in annoyance. The door that was originally tightly closed suddenly rotated. Zahu was not careful and fell into it. Lord Cheokshan. Kana's face changed drastically. He patted the door anxiously, but found that the door could not be opened at all. Even the crab fist of the Iron Claw Lobster could not shake it at all. Kana and others were so anxious that they turned around, but there was nothing they could do. Zahu, who came in unexpectedly, was also surprised. He wanted to go out, but found that the door just now could not be opened at all. He had to turn his attention to the room. There were not many things in the room, only a large bed and 2 bedside tables. Looking at this large and completely disproportionate bed, Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly. The first feeling was that the 23rd Emperor was really a beast, the second feeling was that I wanted it, and the third feeling was that I would never have the chance to use it in this life. He let out a long breath and expressed the inexplicable feelings in his heart. Zahu walked to the bedside table. The bed was very large, but it was empty. On the contrary, there might be something else in the 2 bedside tables. Zahu stretched out his hand and pulled. He didn't know what the bedside table was made of, but the quality was surprisingly good. It was no different from a new one. There was no difference when he opened it. Then a brooch and a pile of strange stones appeared in front of Zahu. Zahu's pupils shrank slightly, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The brooch was an evolution keystone, and the pile of stones next to it were all mega evolution stones. Jengas, Absols, Bangaras, Boscadoras, Lizard Kings. There were more than 10 pieces. Zahu took a deep breath and covered his heart. With so many mega evolution stones in hand, he could really retire. It was worthy of being the first empire of ancient Hone. Only such an empire could collect so many Mega Evolution Stones. Putting all the Mega Evolution Stones and Evolution Keys into his pocket, Zahu looked at the other bedside table. This cabinet had so many good things, and the other one would definitely not be bad. With these gains, his undercover work was worth it. If the doubts in this bedroom could not be solved, he would just release Mewtwo and blow up the entire ruins. As for the water, fleet and the like, I'm not going to do it anymore. He opened another cabinet, and the things in it were somewhat similar to the previous cabinet, but the number was much smaller. There were only 2 Mega Evolution Stones, and there was no brooch, but instead there was a Pokeball made of stone. But seeing so few things, Zahu showed an uncontrollable excitement, because these 2 Mega Evolution Stones belonged to Latias and Latias. Divine Beast Evolution Stones. My own Latias can fly to the sky. He took a deep breath, suppressed his ecstasy, and stuffed the 2 Mega Evolution Stones into his pocket. Then Zahu looked at the Pokeball that was born. It must be extremely precious to be able to be placed together with such a rare Divine Beast Evolution Stone. What kind of powerful Divine Beast will be inside? Zahu stretched out his hand to hold the Pokeball with a little joy, but at the moment of holding it, the whole Pokeball suddenly trembled, and the purple-black power spread out, wrapped around Zahu's arm, and rushed towards Zahu's brain. Zahu wanted to let go and throw away the Pokeball, but found that this strange Pokeball and his hand seemed to grow together, and he couldn't throw it away. He could only watch this purple-black energy extend into his brain, and his brain boomed. In an instant, a diamond-shaped crystal trapped Zahu's soul, and the world fell into darkness, and all sounds disappeared. Is someone trying to take over someone else's body? Zahu was slightly surprised. His own time travel was half possession, and now he could take over someone else's body again. Zahu clenched his fist, hammered it hard, and hit it violently, and the whole diamond-shaped crystal exploded with a bang. So simple. Breaking the diamond-shaped crystal with one punch was so easy that Zahu couldn't imagine it, but he soon realized that this was his spiritual world, and he had the final say. His spiritual power was strong enough, so he could do whatever he wanted. Now here, disperse it. Zahu's mind was filled with the desire to dispel the darkness of this world, and then all the darkness disappeared. Then, a ball of purple-black smoke appeared in front of him, and 2 points of light flickered in the smoke, revealing evil and weirdness. Suddenly seeing Zahu appear, his eyes were surprised. Humble slave, how could you appear here? Your body should be mine. A hysterical voice came from the smoke, sharp and piercing. Shut up. A cold voice sounded, and Zahu saw Mewtwo's body appear. Zahu looked slightly surprised. This is my spiritual world, right? Why can you all enter directly without saying hello to me? You can communicate with me telepathically, so I can come in directly. As if seeing Zahu's confusion, Mewtwo explained a little, but looked at Zahu in confusion and said, but what's wrong with your spirit? Why do I feel that I can't beat you here? Because I'm a bug. Zahu smiled. How to say it? Mewtwo and this unknown thing, although both are very strong, are things within the program, while Zahu's soul from another world is a bug like a virus, not within this program at all, so they are all invalid. Hey, who are you? The soul of the legendary king of the ancient Atlantis Empire, the last emperor. Zahu looked at the smoke and said, foolish fool, what do you know? I'm the high god, the invincible king. What king of the fallen country? The ancient Atlantis Empire will reach its peak in my hands. The smoke roared angrily. It's true, but can a person's soul exist for so long? Interesting. Zahu showed an evil expression on his face. Looking at the smoke, it was like seeing a little white mouse. Lowly slave, kneel down and look at me. You are such a lowly thing that you are not qualified to look directly at me. You can only crawl at my feet, and dedicating everything to me is the greatest honor of your life. The smoke said. You're a moron. Oh no, I forgot. You're a ball of air now, without a brain. Zahu said to Mewtwo with an expression that he didn't want to see it. Can you analyze what this thing is made of? Why do I feel that it's not a normal creature? A normal creature, even if it's a little bit second year, should know who is the butcher and who is the fish now. I don't know. I just feel that there are a lot of disgusting things in this ball of things. Selfishness, greed, ugliness. Mewtwo said indifferently. Are they all negative emotions? Zahu frowned slightly. This plot seems to be a bit familiar. In the animation, when Zyozzy and Shende first met, Zyozzy, the brainless one, swelled up again and was controlled by the negative emotions of the ancient emperor in the ruins. Fortunately, Shende was professional enough and spent some means to seal all the negative greed back. This seems to be the rule of this world. Evil thoughts can last forever. Like in the movie version, Hooper's power was originally just power and was sealed up by someone. As a result, before 100 years had passed, the power produced evil consciousness on its own and wanted to swallow up the original Hooper. I didn't expect that I would encounter something similar. It was just bad luck for the last emperor to encounter this bug. You are the lowly negative. I'm a god in heaven, and it is a great honor for a lowly servant like you to give me your body. Let me go. Smoke roared. It's just emotion. You don't even have a brain, and you can't analyze the current situation. Forget it. Die, just like your body, that has long been gone. Zahu shook his head impatiently, and with a thought, a destructive force emanated from his body, completely annihilating the smoke. Outside the room, Jenga showed a proud smile. From this moment on, it was free. Chapter 330, The Ruins. After resolving the regret of the last emperor of ancient Atlantis, Zahu's consciousness reappeared in reality. Then, the shadows on the ground gathered, and the super-evolved Jenga suddenly appeared, and then the telekinesis surged, and the Pokeball in Zahu's hand suddenly turned into particles, and dissipated into the air. This Pokeball, is it your Pokeball? Zahu looked at Jenga, and although it was a question, his tone was affirmative. Yes, this is where I stayed before, but my master took it away and used it to seal his greed and negativity. Because of the existence of this Pokeball, I can't leave this ruins. Now, I'm truly free and can go wherever I want. Jenga smiled happily. But because it contains your master's negative emotions, you dare not come to destroy it, fearing that your master will control it, so I can only help you. Zahu said. That's right. Jenga said. But then why didn't you tell me directly at the beginning? I can help you. Zahu said strangely. Because I didn't think of it at the beginning. Jenga said. Ah. Zahu's expression was stunned. Is this the reason why you are illogical? At the beginning, I was just like the two you killed. I only had the desire to kill. But I'm different from them. I'm a ghost. I have strong survivability, so I woke up quickly. But my memory still hasn't recovered. I just wanted to play. After playing for more than half a month, I remembered what happened. It was when you called me, and then I let you try. Sure enough, you succeeded. Your soul is a monster. My illusion has no effect on you. Jenga said. Okay, then what are you going to do next? Zahu said. Of course I'm going out to play. The world is so big. If I don't go out to play, how can I be conquered by you again? Jenga stuck out his tongue, and his whole body instantly disappeared in the ruins. Zahu looked stunned. You made an appointment with Mewtwo. Are you here to stab me? But Jenga left. The crisis was resolved, and he got a lot of Mega Evolution Stones and Evolution Keys. Zahu was in a good mood. At the same time, the giant claws of the Iron Claw lobster outside swung, and finally blew up the door and successfully entered. Hana looked anxious. When he saw Zahu was safe and sound, he breathed a sigh of relief and said, Master Chaoshio, nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's just that Jenga's restrictions have been lifted. We can go. This time we are really free. Zahu said. We can go. Although Hana didn't know what happened, he was overjoyed when he thought that he could leave. The members of the water fleet behind him also cheered. These days, although they were all safe and sound, the pressure of madly testing the edge of death was too great. Okay, everyone, form your teams. Izumi and Hamura should be coming out soon. When the time comes, you will report to Izumi. Zahu said with a smile. These days, we are able to survive because of Lord Tide. If it weren't for Lord Tide, even if we were not trapped to death by Jenga, we would have died in the illusion. No one will forget Lord Tide's kindness. As long as Lord Tide says a word, Hana will come. Hana said solemnly. The others also had the same expression. Zahu's expression was subtle. These days, everyone has shared the same difficulties and hardships. It would be a lie to say that there is no emotion. But the problem is, I'm an undercover. Don't have such deep feelings for me, otherwise I will sell you out one day. Let's go. Zahu coughed dryly and led the group out. When they walked into the secret room where Jenga first appeared, Yingxiang and a few others also crawled out from underground. According to them, they were enveloped by the power of the uprising as soon as they went down, and they circled underground. It was not easy to find a way out now, so they can go out together. In Zahu's opinion, Yingxiang's performance was rare, but it was unnecessary now. Instead, if they met Umira or other members of the Magna team, it would be embarrassing. So Zahu asked them to leave through the tunnel, while Zahu and other members of the water fleet went out through the main gate. Yingxiang also realized that everyone's identities were different now. The great crisis was resolved, so everyone was enemies again, so she left without much hesitation. Zahu led the remaining defeated troops out of the ruins and met Izumi and other members of the water fleet, as well as the retreating Magna team at the gate. Drive-tide. Izumi was a little surprised when she saw Zahu walking in front. Generally speaking, the leader was the one walking in front, and Dr. Tide was just a reference like a counselor. It would be better if he was replaced by Dr. Toyama. Captain Izumi, is everything okay? Zahu said. It's okay. Although a lot of people were lost, the gains were also great. How about Dr. Tide? Izumi said. It's okay. Although there were many twists and turns and many members were injured, it's okay. Zahu said. But what happened? Izumi said. It was an accident caused by a strange Jenga. Zahu hid the fact that he had lost Mewtwo and the Mega Evolution Stone, and told Izumi what happened. After hearing what happened, Izumi looked at Zahu in surprise, as if she had never thought that Zahu could do this. After thinking for a while, she said, in this case, ZioABC will sort out the Pokémon by themselves and divide them into two groups. Those Pokémon that are not injured, or are not seriously injured, will follow me to the airship. Those Pokémon that are seriously injured will follow you, Dr. Tide, and Hana to the Pokémon Center for treatment and return to the team tomorrow. Pokémon Center. Zahu looked a little surprised. Is it really okay for members of the underground organization to go to the Pokémon Center of the Alliance to treat Pokémon openly? Yes, Dr. Tide, you don't need to change your clothes. The rest of the water fleet members will all take off their uniforms and dress like ordinary people. I will also give you a day off and return to the team tomorrow, Izumi said as a matter of course. Okay. Zahu nodded, thinking that he had also made a misunderstanding and had set the underground organization and the alliance against each other. In fact, the two organizations, Aquafleet and Magna Team, have Kyogre and Groudon as their ultimate goal. Although they often kidnap, extort and steal in order to obtain this information, because there is not much information on super ancient Pokémon, the harm caused is relatively small. Unlike Team Rocket, they only do it to make money and don't care about the consequences. So the alliance is targeting them, but the intensity is relatively not that great. When this group of people from the Aqua Fleet took off their clothes, no one knew they were members of the Aqua Fleet, so naturally no one caught them. After giving instructions, Izumi took the intact people on the airship and then took Beach into the operation room and remotely connected to the headquarters of the Aqua Fleet via video. After a while, the figure of Shu Wutang sitting in an office chair appeared on the screen. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331, The Decision of the Water Fleet. You are finally connected. What happened? The energy and magnetic field in the ancient sage ruins are chaotic. I sent several groups of people in succession. They collided with the people of the Red Flame Pine and fought several times. Not only did I not find you, but I also alarmed the alliance. Many people were captured by Junsha. Shu Wutang said. Thank you for your concern, Lord Shu Wutang. After we entered the ruins to explore, we met the Magna team, and then there was the super ancient Jenga. Quan Mei described the whole thing in detail and reported. Super ancient Jenga? Is it a great Pokémon? What's the situation with Kyogre and Groudon? Do you have any information on this? Shu Wutang frowned. It's currently lacking, but Lord Shu Wutong, I found a map and will fax it to you. Quan Mei photocopied the photo and transmitted it remotely. A huge map appeared in the air. Shu Wutong, who was far away at the headquarters of the water fleet, frowned slightly when he saw the blurred route on the map. His eyes moved upwards, and he saw a line of text in the upper left corner. He frowned even more and asked, "What does this line mean? Have you translated it?" The first sentence has been translated. "It means the ancient red, the power of the earth, the life of magma," said Quan Mei. "Red, earth, magma? This is about Groudon," Shu Wutong said. "That's what I guessed too. In addition, the situation is critical, so I didn't do much research." Quan Mei said. "Those who didn't find Kyogre actually found Groudon. Well, you bring people back now, and prepare to capture Groudon," Shu Wutong said. "Lord Shu Wutong, isn't our target Kyogre? Why do we need to capture Groudon, whose power is completely opposite to Kyogre?" Quan Mei asked curiously. "We don't need it, but Kai Yansong and the others do. Isn't it comfortable to snatch the target of our old rival?" Shu Wutong showed an inexplicable smile on his face. "I understand," Quan Mei said. "There is also a weather research institute near the ancient ruins. There is information about super ancient Pokémon in it, which needs to be obtained. You plan the number of people," Shu Wutong said. "I will divide the people into 2 groups. Now Dr. Tide and Kana are in the Pokémon Center. You can let them do it," Quan Mei said. "Tide? Didn't he come back with you?" Shu Wutong said. "No. Regarding Dr. Tide, Lord Shu Wutong, I want to report to you about Dr. Tide," Quan Mei said. "Why? Is there a problem?" Shu Wutong said. "Yes. After entering the ruins, Dr. Tide and I separated. Dr. Tide led a group of people by himself. In the process, he showed a fighting power that was completely different from that of a normal scholar. From Beechan's description, I'm afraid that no one in the organization can fight against him except me," Quan Mei said. "Is he at such a level? Do you suspect he is an undercover?" Shu Wutong said. "It is possible. So I left him in the Pokémon Center and secretly asked Nunchuan and Kitano to monitor him. If there is any unusual movement, report it," Quan Mei said. "Test him carefully. If he really has the ability you said, after the test, you can consider letting him take charge of both scientific research and combat. We just happened to recruit a group of new people recently," Shu Wutong said. "I understand, but what if he is found to be an undercover agent?" Quan Mei said. "Then it depends on the situation. If he is harmful to the organization, get rid of him. But if he can bring benefits to the organization and speed up the research, keep him first, and wait until the research is successful, then get rid of him. In short, everything is to find Kyogre first, and the rest are trivial matters," Shu Wutong said. "I understand. In addition, we lost a lot of people in this ruins exploration, and even the leader of Ziobi died in it. We need new people to supplement, and the payment of pensions is also an important issue," Quan Mei said. "You can draw up a list for me later. You can save money on other aspects, but you can't save money on pensions. Otherwise, it will be difficult to find new people next year, and the team will be easily scattered. You can discuss this directly with Kaiser. This kind of handover is not the first time you have come," Shu Wutong said. "I understand," Quan Mei said. Shu Wutong on the screen nodded and hung up the video call. Quan Mei nodded silently, and Beechan beside him looked thoughtful. Zahu at the Pokémon Center didn't know that he was suspected. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. With that batch of Mega Evolution Stones, even if the mission failed, he could still handle it. Next, he would sleep if he could, or forget it if he couldn't. 3 months is not a long time anyway. On the contrary, he is now troubled by a bigger doubt. After entering the Pokémon Center, he was thinking about the words in the ruins. The original power, the order that creates everything, the coexistence of creation and destruction, the ancient power, the giant stone of the sky, the power contained in every Pokémon. The original power, does it refer to the original power of return, or the power of Mega Evolution? The 2 sentences at the end circle the key points, which are order, creation, and destruction. And this thing has nothing to do with Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre. On the contrary, it is coincidentally related to the 3 guardian beasts of the Kalos region. The three gods of Ziz. Z god Zygod is a supervisory god of ecological order. Once there is a problem with the ecological order, it will be corrected. X god Zernis has no responsibility for creation, but has the ability to give life. In ancient civilizations, culture and creation mean the same thing. Y god Yveltal, not to mention, is an out and out god of destruction, really destructive. But how did the information about the three great beasts in the Kalos region end up in the Hone region? Could it be that thousands of years ago, the Hone continent and the Kalos continent were one? Did the plates not drift at that time? Zahu rubbed his brows, but he really lacked the information from thousands of years ago, and the information about the three great gods of Kalos and the Kalos region was also very rare. He didn't have much, so even if it was related, he couldn't study it. As for the last giant stone in the sky, what does it mean? Is it the mysterious giant stone in the animation special, or something else? The sky, does it mean that the giant stone is a meteorite from outer space from the universe? Zahu logged onto the Pokémon Center's network and searched for information related to this aspect. There is only half of the information, which is really troublesome. Too many people are troublesome, so is Izumi and Zahu. In addition, Fire Village did the same thing, reporting the situation in the ruins to Red Flame Pine. After listening to Fire Village's report, Red Flame Pine made the same decision as Water Wutang. Capture Kaiga. Although this was not his goal, since he accidentally discovered it, he might as well capture it. Even if it is useless to him, it is good to disgust the opponent. Besides, who knows if it will be useful in the future? Maybe catching Kaiga will help capture Groudon. Chapter 332, Battle at the Weather Research Institute. Master Chaozi, we are almost at the Weather Research Institute. Kana reported to Zahu on the airship. Zyobi's team leader died in the ruins. As Zyobi's current top expert, he was directly appointed as Zyobi's team leader, and was responsible for this operation. However, the things in the ruins made him habitually come here to ask Zahu's opinion. We are here, what are you talking to me about? You are the team leader of Zyobi, just organize and do it yourself. Anyway, there are no experts in the Weather Research Institute. It's just that there are many floating bubbles in this Weather Research Institute, which will change into different forms according to the weather, so it is easier to escape. If you take the access card of the information room and run away, you may not be able to catch up. After all, the Iron Claw Lobster and the Emperor Tooth Sea Lion are not good at running. Be prepared to deal with it in advance, Zahu said. Understood. Kana nodded and acted vigorously, landing the airship in front of the Weather Research Institute and taking a group of Water Fleet members down, directly attacking the Weather Research Institute. Zahu stayed in the airship with no intention of going down. A research institute is full of specialized researchers, and their combat effectiveness is very weak. It is nothing to the people of the Water Fleet. There is no need for him to go down to help. Zahu was not very worried about the safety of the people in the Weather Research Institute. The Water Fleet would not kill people under normal circumstances, and the Weather Research Institute was such a general situation. No one wanted to kill people for things that could be resolved peacefully. After all, robbing the Research Institute's data and robbing and killing are completely different in nature. Sitting calmly on the airship, studying ancient data. However, after turning a few pages of data, a familiar voice sounded. Lucario, use the enhanced punch. Zahu stopped in surprise and looked out of the window. Sure enough, he saw Zyozzy with a passionate expression on his face. He and Lucario were in one mind and spirit, emitting terrifying wave power all over his body. One person and one Pokémon beat 3DS. On the other side, Suicune fought alone, which was even more amazing. Although there was no Zyozzy's command, he suppressed more than 10 Pokémon of the Water Fleet. Zahu sat on the airship and smiled bitterly. In the animation, there was also such a thing. The Water Fleet attacked the Weather Research Institute. Zyozzy happened to walk to the Weather Research Institute, and then Zyozzy, as a passionate young man, was obliged to lend a hand. Unfortunately, Zyozzy in the animation didn't even have 6 Pokémon in his hand at that time, and he couldn't even take out the main pet, which was almost useless. But the current Zyozzy is completely different from the Zyozzy in the animation. Lucario plus Suicune and Pikachu in normal state, Zyozzy can withstand the entire Water Fleet Zyobi group now. not to mention Zyloxia's Gyarados. Zahu closed the computer helplessly. Meeting Zylozy here was completely unexpected, but the mission had to continue, so he naturally had to educate Zylozy. By the way, teach him something that is usually difficult to teach him as a brother. With one hand, he threw the Pokeball and released Golduck. Zylozy was immersed in the fierce battle and didn't realize the danger at all. He enjoyed the bond with Lucario and resisted the attack of the water fleet. Lucario was moving forward without hesitation and was about to kill Connor. Connor's face changed drastically. He had never thought that such an inconspicuous research institute would have a master like Zylozy. Lucario's Iron Fist was about to fall, and Connor had nowhere to hide. He was about to be hit, but at this moment, Lucario's body froze, his movement stopped, and he fell to the ground. Connor was puzzled, and suddenly someone patted his shoulder. He turned around curiously, and saw Zahu and Golduck appeared behind him. Golduck raised his left hand high, pinched Zylozy's neck with his superpowers, and lifted him into the air. If you don't want him to die, all of you retreat, and hand over the pass card, so that we can download the information. Zahu shouted to Zyadagang and others. Zylozy. Seeing the situation, Zyadagang's face changed drastically, and he said to Zahu, hurry up and let Zylozy go, everything can be discussed. Zahu nodded imperceptibly. Although Zyadagang was very unreliable when he met a beautiful woman, he was a reliable person at other times, except when he met a beautiful woman. In the process of Zylozy's growth, Zyadagang's contribution is absolutely indelible. Pikachu saw Zylozy being caught, and the two red electric bags on his face flashed brightly. Pikachu, no, if you shock him, Zylozy will also be injured. Zyloxia quickly reached out and hugged Pikachu into her arms, shouting to Zahu, we will take back the Pokémon, you quickly let Zylozy go. This is not our decision, but yours. Young trainers are so incompetent. They only care about commanding Pokémon to fight in front, without considering their own safety. They think it is a Pokémon competition, and can only attack Pokémon, not humans. It's childish and stupid. Zahu coldly scolded Zylozy and his group. You guys haven't even grown all your hair yet, and you're all thinking about fighting evil forces. Do you really think it's that easy? Zahu said disdainfully, since you guys have taken back your Pokémon, just step aside, or you'll just have to watch him die. Seeing this, Zyadagang and Zyloxia had to reluctantly take back their Pokémon, and took Zyroyeo and Zyadasheng and stepped aside. The rest are you. Director Baru, right? You probably don't want this passionate young man who is willing to help you to die here. Cooperate honestly, or if we really start fighting, not only will this young man die, but you all will too. Zahu turned his eyes and pointed his finger at the director of the Weather Research Institute. Director Beru of the Weather Research Institute listened to Zahu's words. His face turned black. He couldn't bear to watch Zylozy die, but he was unwilling to hand over the precious information of the institute to an underground organization like the Water Fleet. Really? Go to the director and get the things, Zahu said. A member of the Aqua Fleet hurriedly ran to Chief Baru and stretched out his hand to take it. Chief Baru was reluctant, but not to mention that Zylozy was caught. Even if Zylozy was not caught, he, a civilized person, was no match for the members of the Aqua Fleet, and his pass was quickly snatched away by Zendi. Zendi excitedly ran to Zahu. Zahu calmly took the pass, put it into the machine on the side, and went directly to the archive room, downloaded all the information of Groudon and Kyogre, and then deleted it all. I deleted the information in your computer for you. In this way, the Magma team will not harass you in the future, so don't thank me, Zahu said. You evil organizations are clearly trying to prevent the precious information from being taken away by the Magma team. Despicable. Zylozy, who was controlled by Golduck, scolded. After hearing this, Zahu raised his eyebrows unhappily. You are just relying on your cockroach life to commit suicide, right? A look was given to Golduck, who understood immediately, with an evil expression in his eyes. Without thinking, he threw a punch, a tile-splitting blow, hitting Zylozy in the stomach. Zylozy screamed in pain. If you are caught, don't talk too much, Zahu said unhappily, and then said to Kana and the others, retreat. The members of the Water Fleet immediately took action, and retreated towards the airship, while Zahu stayed behind. You have got all the things. You can let Zyozzy go. Cyanogang said. Of course it's okay. I'm very reasonable. But not now. Otherwise Pikachu will use 100,000 volts. And we will be in the sky. Zahu smiled slightly, and when the airship rose to a high altitude and a rope was lowered, Zahu grabbed the rope with one hand and then raised it. After flying for a distance, Zahu took back Golduck and let Zyozzy go. Zyozzy and others wanted to chase Zahu and take back the data, but they were too far away and had no way. The group of people were dejected and did not notice that a person dressed as a female scholar quietly disappeared from the crowd. Chapter 333, The Thousand Faces, Ban-A-E. Easily obtained information about Kyogre and Groudon from the Weather Research Institute. A group of people were overjoyed. Kana passed the information to his superiors and received praise from Shu Wutong and Quan Mei, which made his position as the leader of ZOB group more stable. Even the training of new people was handed over to Kana. The group stopped in the mountains near Anew City to camp, make fires and barbecue, and dance happily. Zahu was not the boss, but he sat in the boss's position, eating all kinds of barbecues with peace of mind. He also accepted everyone who came to drink beer with him. Master Chaoxi, after receiving the new people, we will separate. There are some things I have to say. I, Connor, have never been convinced by anyone in my life. You are the first one. In the ruins, you saved me. Now you are still saving me when I go to grab Kyogre information. I admire you alone. If you don't do research, we will apply to Master Shu Wutong to let you be the leader of ZOB group, and I will follow you. Kana said as he sat next to Zahu. Follow me. Zahu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If Beiziong didn't come again, I would really have to take root in the water fleet. That's right, our operations department is the strongest department in the organization, but the leader, Captain Quan Mei, is a woman. Although I know that I'm not Captain Quan Mei's opponent, I don't accept her. I think our operations department needs a strong man to lead it. I think Lord Chaozi, you are such a person. Kana said. That's right, Lord Chaozi, we support you. A group of people drank too much and shouted in a drunken state. Zahu chuckled and took a sip of wine. To be honest, he was very happy that so many people trusted him and supported him. But the problem is that he is not from the Water Fleet. The Water Fleet is an underground organization with no future. At best, it will be like this. And even if he is the boss of the operations department, so what? Isn't he still under Shu Wutong's command? Even if he really gave up on himself and wanted to join the Water Fleet, he would first become Shu Wutong and become the boss himself. Ding Ding Zahu and a few others drank and sang, chatted, drank, and barbecued. Before they knew it, everyone was a little drunk. At this time, a pleasant and crisp bell sounded suddenly, and Zahu and others' brains were immediately cleared, and the drunkenness dissipated a little. Zahu looked up curiously and saw a bell floating in front of the woods. Wind chime. Zahu saw the Pokémon clearly and his eyes lit up immediately. It's wind chime, but this Pokémon, although relatively rare, has average combat ability and is not very useful. Kana said. It's indeed average in combat, but it's different in support. Wind chime's healing bell can calm all the irritable moods. If we can have one when we are in the ruins, to make Jenga's brain clear, we might get out earlier. Zahu said. That's right, Master Chaotide is right. Kana suddenly realized. Zahu smiled indifferently, took out the Pokeball and threw it, released Golduck, and let Golduck use superpowers to knock Wind Chime unconscious. Then Zahu threw the Pokeball on Wind Chime's head. The Pokeball bounced, the red light flashed a few times, and finally the Pokeball landed steadily on the ground, indicating that it was successfully captured. Congratulations, Master Chaozi, you have captured it successfully. Kana and the others congratulated. Zahu smiled and took back the Pokeball, touched the outside, and said to himself, I will find you the best master in the future. Thinking of a certain unreliable guy, Zahu couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth slightly, wondering what happened to those guys. Team leader Kana, Yoshikawa Kajiro reports. Zahu's thoughts just flashed through his mind, and a familiar voice sounded next to him. Yoshikawa Kajiro? Zahu was stunned, turned his head, and saw a young man wearing a water fleet uniform and carrying a ditto on his shoulder standing there with a serious face not far away. Although the uniforms are different, the Pokémon has also become a ditto. But even if this face is turned into ash, Zahu can recognize it. Yoshikawa Kajiro, when did you change your last name? And if you want to change it to a complete set, okay. Wouldn't it be better to change Kajiro? Zahu couldn't help but feel a headache. Although he missed Kajiro and his friends, he didn't expect to meet Kajiro and his friends at this time. Yoshikawa Kajiro, are you the captain of the new batch of Zyarxy team? Why did you come alone? Hana asked curiously. Report to the team leader. Our Zyarxy team is almost there, but because the road ahead encountered a landslide, I came here alone to report in advance. The reporting time will be delayed. Kajiro said. Is that so? No problem. Since you have reported, sit down and have a drink first. I will train you in a few days. Hana said indifferently. Yes. Kajiro agreed with a serious face. Zahu frowned slightly. He and Kajiro had lived and ate together for 7 years. It was true that when Kajiro stuck out his butt, Zahu knew what he was talking about. This posture was completely different from Kajiro's usual appearance, especially that ditto. When did Kajiro capture ditto? Zahu's mind raced, and he suddenly released the wind chime. Wind chime floated in the air, with ribbons dancing and making clear and pleasant sounds. Although it was captured inexplicably, Wind Chime, who has always been close to humans, did not feel disgusted by being captured by humans. On the contrary, it was optimistic by nature and was very close to Zahu. Zyarjiro, what do you think of my Wind Chime? Zahu asked. The sound of the bell is melodious and it is well cultivated. It is worthy of being an adult's Pokémon. Zyarjiro said. Zahu's pupils shrank after hearing this. Before, it was just a simple feeling judgment, but now it is 100% certain that this thing is definitely not Zyarjiro. Wind Chime is not an ordinary Pokémon for Zyarjiro, but something that is almost first love. Although Zyarjiro's first love was not perfect, the first person he liked was his fiancée Lumigia, but Lumigia forced him to run away from home. Of course, it is also possible that in Zyarjiro's heart, Wind Chime is the first love, and Lumigia is the second. If it is true, Zyarjiro will definitely turn green when he sees Wind Chime. Now this Kajiro has such a calm reaction to Fenglingling, which means he is definitely not the real Kajiro. Looking at the ditto on Kajiro's shoulder, Zahu showed a strange smile on his face. If he remembered correctly, there was a man named Bane of the Thousand Faces in the Magna team, who was good at disguise. So there was only one ditto around him. Thinking of this, Zahu grinned and looked at Yoshikawa Kajiro and said, Kajiro, right? Where are you from? Report to the Lord. I'm from the 7 Stars Islands area in Johto. Yoshikawa Kajiro said. 7 Stars Islands? Zahu's mouth curled up slightly. I don't know whether it was Kajiro who made it up, or Bane who made up such an area. The 7 Stars Islands are the most remote islands in the Johto area. There are not many people, so it is the easiest to fabricate an identity. Then have you heard of Bane from the Magma team? Zahu asked back. Bane? Who is he? I don't know. Yoshikawa Kajiro said with a puzzled look. Is that so? Then let me introduce you to Bane, the ugliest freak in the Magma team. Every time he goes out on a mission, he uses someone else's face. He is so ugly. Don't you think so? Zahu said. Yes. Yoshikawa Kajiro said with a smile. Really? You are so intelligent and so good at talking. I really like you. Connor, what about you? Zahu said. Lord Tide likes you, which means you have a future. Everyone is optimistic about you. Kana smiled. That's right. Lord Tide likes you, which means you have a bright future. But if I had known that Bane was ugly and had a bright future, I would have said it to death. A member of the water fleet followed. Yes, that's right. But speaking of it, how ugly is Bane? Does anyone know? Who knows? He changes his face every day, but he must be very ugly, otherwise he wouldn't wear a mask every day. Under the influence of alcohol, a group of people talked about it. Yoshikawa Kajiro listened expressionlessly, but his eyes subconsciously revealed a hint of murderous intent. Speaking of which, do you care about how ugly the real Bane looks? Zahu said. Of course I want to see it. What does that guy's real face look like? No one knows it until now. Kana said. Then I'll show it to you now. Zahu smiled. HMM. Kana was stunned for a moment. Then he saw Zahu's expression turned fierce. He suddenly released Golduck and said, Golduck, show this ugly monster who hides his head and shows his tail. Golduck's eyes emitted a dazzling blue light, and the terrifying superpowers emanated, bombarding Yoshikoro Kajiro like a cannonball. Yoshikoro Kajiro was blown away, and half of his face was blown off, revealing a completely different face. Bane, Kana and others' faces changed drastically. They didn't expect that the new person who reported was the Thousand Faces of the Magna team. But then, they were ecstatic. The Thousand Faces, a senior member of the Magna team, will be rewarded if caught. One by one, they got excited, howled, and threw out Pokeballs to attack. Although everyone was a little drunk now, and several of them couldn't even stand up, but the battle was with Pokémon, not them. As for commanding orders, dozens against one, what strategy is there? Just beat him up with a bunch of turtle punches. Chapter 334 True Kajiro. Dozens of people against one, the result is naturally doomed. After all, Bane is not a professional fighter, but a thief in disguise, good at lurking and spying, usually running away after stealing things. This time, he came here for the information of the Weather Research Institute. Like Kana, he also got the task, but unlike Kana who used force, Bane Yarned used the old trick of disguise, and also disguised himself as a woman, and successfully entered the institute. If Zahu and his group had not appeared, it is estimated that he would have succeeded. It was just because of the appearance of Zahu and his group that the plan failed halfway, so he could only obtain it through other means, such as disguising himself as Kajiro to inquire about the information. If he disguised himself as someone else, even Zahu would not be sure to recognize him. Unfortunately, this guy is unlucky. He disguised himself as Kajiro, senior member of the Fire Rock team, Bane. Relying on a disguise that no one can tell, he has caused a lot of trouble to our water fleet. The organization has long remembered him. If we catch this guy, everyone's year-end bonus will be doubled. Kana said happily. Then you can continue to celebrate. In addition, what are the new members like this time? Zahu said. Originally, because the Magna team accelerated the search for Groudon, the search was huge, and they poached a lot of people from us. In order to fight against the Magna team, the organization accelerated the search and recruited a large number of people. In the research department, we invited people like Tide, and we also recruited a large number of low-level members like Xiaoxi. Then during the time we were in the ruins, Master Shu Wutang fought with the Magna team several times and lost a lot of people. Many people were also captured by the Alliance, so the organization is now short of manpower and recruited a large number of new people. Kana said. Do you have a list of new people? Give me a copy. Zahu asked. No problem. Kana took out the roster of new people training without hesitation and handed it to Zahu. Zahu took it casually, flipped through the roster, and browsed the information at a glance. In the vast information, he found two people he knew. Yoshikoro Kajiro, Yoshikoro Hirono. Then on the Pokémon that the two people had marked, one was written as Meowth and the other was written as Ranran Weng. Zahu rolled his eyes. I knew that these four guys would not be so honest. But how did you four losers get into the water fleet? Is the water fleet really so hungry? Zahu was puzzled, but he couldn't draw many conclusions without seeing the person. For the time being, he pretended that nothing had happened and continued to chat and eat barbecue with Kana and others. The days passed slowly. A group of newcomers reported collectively. Kana conducted basic training for these people, instilled the concept of the water fleet, and output crazily. Zahu visited a few classes. How should I put it? It was just a pyramid scheme brainwashing. Even the organization method was similar. But what was beyond Zahu's expectation was that in the classroom training, Kajiro's score was actually the first. When Zahu and Kana were chatting, Kana said that he was very optimistic about Kajiro and thought that Kajiro was the most talented one in this batch. However, in order to avoid any problems, Zahu had not contacted them after Kajiro arrived. When the training was almost completed, Zahu took turns to instruct a group of people including Kajiro and Hiroya in the name of educating a group of outstanding members. After educating a group of people, it was Kajiro and Hiroya's turn. Zahu asked Cheomeng to use his superpowers to isolate the sound inside, and then looked at the two people with murderous intent and said, "Can anyone explain to me how you two idiots got in? Boss, we are very loyal to carry out your orders. After listening to you, we went on a trip. However, when we were traveling, an old woman suddenly asked us if we wanted to join the water fleet and gave us a monthly salary that we could not refuse. Boss, it's 10 times the salary you gave me." Kajiro stared at Zahu with shining eyes. "Yes, master, this is the first time in my life that I have so much money and I can work independently without relying on money from my family. So I discussed with my elder brother Kajiro and worked hard in the fleet to get better performance. We are also thinking about whether to report the undercover traitor." Hiroya said. "Report undercover traitor?" Zahu raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a perfect arc, and threw the Gotha duck out. "As long as you don't kill him, beat him to death." Zahu issued a brutal order. The Gotha duck called Gotha and showed an evil expression, then activated its superpowers and violently attacked Kajiro and Hiroya. Kajiro and Hiroya's faces suddenly changed, and they hurriedly wanted to escape, but under the terrifying telekinesis of the Gotha duck, the action of running away turned into a scream for mercy. "Boss, we were wrong. You are my boss, the direction of my lifelong pursuit. You let me bang my head against the wall, but I will never jump into the river and die. Yes, master, I was wrong. I'm your most obedient disciple." Zahu turned a deaf ear to him and calmly took a sip of the juice beside him. After the fight was almost over with Gotha duck, he said slowly, "Okay, Gotha duck, put these two guys down." After hearing this, Gotha duck put Kajiro and the other two down, with a look of reluctance on his face, which made Kajiro and Haoi tremble. "I pretended not to hear what you said just now. I'll give you 3 seconds to reorganize your words and say it to me again," Zahu said. As soon as he finished speaking, Kajiro suddenly pounced, hugged Zahu's thighs and said, "Boss, I was wrong. I love you too much. You are the most important person in my life, no one else. Without you, my life seems to have lost its luster, so I must follow you, boss, and be your most loyal little brother." Zahu moved his legs, trying to kick Kajiro away, but Kajiro held tightly and refused to let go, so Zahu let him do it. Haoi was much younger after all, and his movements were a few beats slower than Kajiro. After Kajiro hugged his thighs and reorganized his words, Haoi reacted and rushed over quickly, but just as he rushed over, Zahu kicked him and knocked him over. "The first one who did it is a genius, and the second one is a fool," Zahu said. Haoi squatted in a small corner with a hurt expression on his face. "Go to hell," Zahu said unhappily. "Kajiro is a fool, and this is not the first time. He is from Kanto, and he doesn't know many people here, so I don't bother to talk about him. But you, the son of the king of Hone, are you undercover like this? Are you afraid that others won't know you?" "Master, don't worry. In Hone, no one knows me. I don't participate in the gym competition. I only want to participate in the gorgeous competition, but my father won't let me go, so no one in Hone really knows me," Haoi explained. "What if something really happens, how do you want me to explain to your father?" Zahu said. "No need to explain. I'm an adult. I can be responsible for my own behavior. I want to train independently," Haoi said. Zahu shook his head. Since he was here, he couldn't drive him away, so he could only protect him more in the future. "By the way, where's Meowth? How did you bring it here? I don't even know where Meowth's Pokeball went," Zahu said. "As early as 7 years ago, after he captured Meowth, he threw the Pokeball into a corner of the institute, and then he never looked for it, and he could never find it again. It was in the innermost trash can in the utility room on the 3rd floor of the institute, when Jenga was still Haunter. Then I kept it, thinking that when necessary, I would trap Meowth, put it in, and then hold the Pokeball tightly with my hand, so that it couldn't come out. I didn't expect to use it here first," Kajiro said. "Then how did you get in?" Zahu said. "Boss, I really didn't lie to you just now. We really didn't come in on our own initiative, but there was an old woman who wanted to recruit us to join the water fleet. We wanted to come in anyway, and they also gave us such a high salary, so we had to come," Kajiro said. "Did you really poach us?" What a broken team. Is there any hope? Zahu said with a look of disgust. There are two main sources of members of the Waterfleet's Creek group. The first is poaching. The main purpose is to discover and investigate experts with potential and who are inclined towards the Waterfleet. People of this kind can basically become team leaders. The second is a daily recruitment department. It mainly recruits descendants of people within the Waterfleet organization, people who have never seen the world in remote island villages, and bad boys in various cities. It depends on the situation. A few strong ones can become team leaders, and most of them start from the bottom. And Kajero and others still need to be specially poached. The Waterfleet is becoming less and less promising. Chapter 335. The Waterfleet prepares for war. At the headquarters of the Waterfleet, Shu Wutong was listening to Quan Mei's report. Lord Shu Wutong, the plan to capture Groudon has been completed. Although the capture process had some twists and turns, it was generally smooth. One can't help but wonder how such a force could have created the continent in ancient times. Quan Mei said. That's why Team Magna looks stupid. Shu Wutong said disdainfully, but we still have to protect it. After all, Groudon is weak now, but it doesn't mean it will be weak after combining with the Blue Pearl. And if the people of Team Magna know about it, they will definitely come to snatch it. Understood. Quan Mei said solemnly. Also, how is Tide? Shu Wutong said. Based on his current performance, he has not been in contact with the outside world, and there is no evidence of leaking secrets. But Tide has several Pokeballs on him, and there is no guarantee that there are no psychic Pokémon inside to teleport out and report the news. Quan Mei said. Since there is no evidence, keep it first. The most scarce thing in this world is talent. Useless people, even if they are extremely loyal, are not qualified to exist in the fleet. Capable and loyal people are worth cultivating and becoming cadres. Disloyal people should be squeezed dry and then killed. Shu Wutong said. Understood. Quan Mei said again. Next, you prepare. We have almost collected the information on the ancient Pokémon. The remaining is Dr. Jung. There may be some information. We need to get it. After getting the information from there, our information collection will be basically completed. Shu Wutong said. Understood. Lord Shu Wutong, something bad has happened. At this time, an urgent voice suddenly sounded outside. Shu Wutong and Quan Mei's faces changed. They were talking about work and did not allow others to interrupt. Before they could figure out who it was, the door was opened rashly. Liuz, a senior officer of the Waterfleet Intelligence Department, rushed over and said, Lord Shu Wutong, something bad has happened. According to our insider report in the Magna team, they have already captured Kyogre. What? After hearing the report, Shu Wutong and Quan Mei's faces changed drastically. They were immersed in the shocking news brought by Liuz and no longer cared about Liuz's rushing in to interrupt their report. Compared with the news brought by Liuz, this little thing was nothing. Is the news true? Shu Wutong confirmed. It's basically true. We have sent people to explore and found traces of Kyogre's appearance. In addition, judging from the time, it was after it came out of the ruins, which basically coincides with the time we captured Groudon. Liuz said. So the exact location information of the super ancient Pokémon is all in the ruins. Shu Wutong clenched his fist and said. If he had known this, he would not have let Quan Mei take Zhao ABC alone, but the entire Waterfleet would have gone out in full force. Lord Shu Wutong, please forgive me. It was my mistake. Quan Mei bowed her head and took the blame. You are not to blame for this. On the contrary, you got the information about Groudon and prevented them from getting it. Now we have the capital to trade with you. You still have to take credit for it. Shu Wutong said. Although the news was unexpected, he was still calm as a leader. Lord Shu Wutong, this is my fault. I will try to sneak into the Magna team and bring Kyogre back to make amends. Quan Mei said. Okay. From now on, you stop all the work at hand and specialize in the investigation of rescuing Kyogre from the Magna team. In addition, Liuz, you will contact that guy Red Flame Pine for me to discuss the exchange of Pokémon. Shu Wutong said. Subordinates, give the order immediately. Liuz said. From now on, stop all actions of recruiting new people. Those who have been recruited can be discarded if possible. There is no point in cultivating them anymore. Shu Wutang said. Recruiting new people is to find Kaiga. Now that Kaiga has been found, there is no point in recruiting new people who need to be trained. It will only increase expenses. Yes. Liuz said. Also, connect with Kana and Tide and have them go to Dr. Jung to steal the Pokémon data and see if there are any suitable methods in it. In addition, I heard that Dr. Jung recently invented a set of phantom battle system. If it can help us defeat Team Magma, we will also steal it. Shu Wutang said. Sir Shu Wutang, are you really confident about Tide? Izumi said. Whether you are confident or not, it doesn't matter. The top priority of the organization now is to get Kaiga back from Team Magma. Except for you, all the personnel must return to the headquarters. We don't have any extra manpower. And there is a group of team members who are being trained there. The defense of Dr. Jung's institute is not weak. If these people go on the mission, a large number of them will basically die. It's just right to save some capital. Those who have not signed a formal contract don't need to pay pensions. Shu Wutang said. Sir is wise. Knowing Shu Wutang's thoughts, Izumi no longer dissuaded him, but concentrated on thinking about how to take Kaiga away from Team Magma. Compared with Kaiga's matter, Zahu's matter is just a trivial matter. The huge organization of the water fleet quickly took action and continuously contracted the core force. Zahu and others who had been training new members near Yanayu City also received orders and assignments soon. Drive Jung's phantom battle system? Zahu said. Yes, the organization needs it. Lord Cheo Tide, do you know this Dr. Jung? Kana said. I've heard of him. He was once a well-known figure in the academic world, but he was too self-centered and greedy in his research. He even harmed Pokémon to achieve his goals in his research. He was selfish and self-centered, so he was expelled from the Pokémon Research Association. Zahu said. Expelled by the Pokémon Association? That should mean he has no ability, but he must go to get the information. Kana said. Let me correct your mistake here. Most of those who were expelled from the Pokémon Research Association have moral problems, but moral integrity has nothing to do with ability. Dr. Jung has moral problems and was expelled, but his ability is worthy of recognition. To be precise, he is a paranoid lunatic. A dangerous person who did not use his talent in the right place. Zahu said. No matter how dangerous it is, if they meet our fleet, they are just meat on the chopping board. Kana said. Whether it is a dangerous explosive or meat on the chopping board, we will talk about it when we get there. But it is strange to let you take a novice with you for such a thing. And he didn't ask me to go back and ask me to stay here. Zahu was puzzled. This should be because Master Shu Wutang discovered Master Cheo Z's extraordinariness, so he wants to entrust him with an important task. Kana said. Entrust him with an important task? Zahu showed an undeniable smile on his face, but he was secretly calculating the time in his heart. Zio's he should have finished the Indigo Gym and was ready to challenge the Green Collar Gym. If I remember correctly, it was at this time in the animation that Shu Wutang and Red Flame Pine caught Groudon and Kaiga. Although some things have changed because of my intervention, these changes should not be big, so the plot should still be similar to the animation. So now they have already caught Groudon and Kaiga, but they just happen to be out of place. So there is a shortage of manpower temporarily, so I came out. In this case, I have to make plans early. Chapter 336 Phantom System. Dr. Jung, a mad doctor who was born in Kanto, but was expelled from the Kanto Pokémon Association. But even so, Jung's ability cannot be denied, especially in Hone, a place that doesn't know much about his past black history. He is still respected. Zahu sat on the airship, looking down at the majestic manor on the ground, but couldn't help showing a thoughtful expression. Jung, a doctor who was expelled from the Pokémon Association and could not get funds from the Alliance, how could he have so much money to live in such a luxurious manner? Phantom System? Zahu always felt that there was a sense of deja vu, but he just couldn't remember it for a while. But from this point of view, it was obvious that there was a consortium or some underground organization behind this Jung to fund him. Lord Cheo Tide, someone is approaching Dr. Jung's manor. Zenshu reported. Who is it? Do you have to report it specifically? Zahu was surprised. If it was an ordinary person, there would be no need to report it. If it was a slightly stronger person, Kana could also deal with it. If they came specifically to him, it meant that even Kana was not sure to deal with the people who came. It's the group of people I met at the Weather Research Institute last time, Zenshu said. The group of people from the Weather Research Institute? Zahu's tone changed slightly. That was Zyozzy and his friends. Yes, and according to the intelligence, Professor Oak from Kanto is here too. Zenshu said. Huh? Professor Oak from Kanto is here too? Zahu's expression was even more surprised. You know, it was Professor Oak who expelled Jung from the Kanto Pokémon Association. Although there was no personal emotion involved, it was not Professor Oak who reported Jung at the beginning. Professor Oak was just the one who made the final decision in the review team, and he handled the matter impartially. However, it is hard to say whether Jung, who was expelled, thought so. Now Jung invites Professor Oak. No problem. Yes, Zenshu said. In that case, suspend the operation, install surveillance equipment, and learn about the Phantom system by the way. Zahu said. Yes. Zenshu saluted and released several mosquito-sized precision machines from a distance. The machines sneaked in silently, stopped at an inconspicuous place in Dr. Jung's manor, and projected the real-time picture back. Zahu lay on the sofa, looking at the picture calmly, feeling like watching an animation. Professor Oak, Satoshi and the others did not realize that someone was monitoring them. On the contrary, they greeted each other warmly after meeting each other. Professor Oak, do you know where my brother is? I haven't seen him since we parted on the fighting island last time. Satoshi asked. I don't know where your brother is now, but you are the only one participating in the Hone League CIR conference this time. You must work hard. Professor Oak said. Xiaomao and Shinji both went to the Kalos region, and even if Zahu finished his mission, he is now the champion. Since they are all champions, they can no longer participate in the league. I will, and I want to become the champion and challenge my brother who is already the champion. Satoshi said. Work hard, I believe in you. Professor Oak encouraged. There are some things he was embarrassed to say to Satoshi in person. In fact, in Professor Oak's heart, he felt that this was the only chance for Satoshi to win the championship. Otherwise, Zahu will participate in future competitions, and with Zahu participating, there will be no suspense about who the champion is. Everyone, I have been waiting for you. Welcome to my research institute. At this time, a blue-haired scholar walked out. Jung, long time no see. Professor Oak said. Hello, I'm Zyozzy. Zyozzy also introduced himself, and then Zyuksha and others introduced themselves. Dr. Jung nodded slightly and said, long time no see, Professor Oak, and welcome everyone. Drive Jung, you said that excellent training Pokémon can come here to challenge. When will it start? And where will the challenge be? Zyozzy asked eagerly. It's here. Dr. Jung smiled slightly, took out a controller from his pocket, pressed the button, and several protrusions on the ground emitted a faint blue light, which was bright and rich, and several Pokémon were born out of thin air. Archaic armor, scythe helmet, spiny ammonite, Houndoom, Boscadora, and strange power. What is this? On the airship, Kana said with a look of shock. Phantom Pokémon. By collecting data on the habits, abilities, attributes, etc. of Pokémon, and then analyzing and manufacturing the data, and using special equipment to create data. Just like the game characters in the game Pure Data. Zahu said. Data? But why does data have such strong attack power? Kana looked at the screen, where Boscadora easily defeated Mr. Milotic. Because this is data that has been materialized, it has actual attack power. Except that it is data, has no self-awareness, and cannot leave the preset energy area. These phantom Pokémon are basically the same as real Pokémon, and are even much stronger than their original bodies. Zahu said. So powerful? No wonder the organization wants us to come. Kana suddenly realized. But data Pokémon are not Pokémon. Such a battle is at most a simulated battle, and cannot be regarded as a real Pokémon battle. Zahu said. Because it is created by data, the appearance of these Pokémon is fictitious, and has nothing to do with the Pokémon body. There is no attribute restraint at all. Basically, they can be classified as Pokémon without attributes. Like the battle just now, Boscadora is obviously a rock type, but it is not affected by water type attacks at all. Formal battles are not allowed, and private battles are unconstrained, so it is better to just throw bombs. Zahu watched from afar through the monitor on the airship, while Xiaoxia and the others in the manor were shocked. They had never thought that Dr. Jung's phantom Pokémon would be so strong. However, the strength of the opponent obviously did not scare Xiaoxia, a young man with a head full of blood. Not only did he not lose heart, but he became more excited. He threw his Pokéball and released his strongest trump card, Lucario. Lucario? It is indeed a different Pokémon, but in this case, it is still not enough to defeat my phantom Pokémon. Dr. Jung said, commanding Boscadora to fight Lucario. Lucario, go all out, let Dr. Jung see our full strength. Xiaoxia roared, and the powerful wave power emanated from his body. The voices of one person and one pet were connected together, and Lucario was shrouded in white light. After the light faded, Super Lucario made a brilliant appearance. When Dr. Jung saw Mega Lucario, a hint of greed flashed in his eyes, and he said to Xiaoxia, is this the legendary Bond evolution? Mega Lucario? Yes, this is me and my Lucario. Dr. Jung, although your phantom Pokémon is very powerful, my Lucario will definitely win in the end. Xiaoxia said passionately. Okay, let me see your strength. Dr. Jung smiled. Boscadora, use Destruction Beam. Boscadora opened his mouth wide, and a golden and terrifying energy beam spurted out strongly, heading straight for Lucario. Lucario, use Wave Missile. Xiaoxia shouted. Lucario's wave power surged, and an energy bullet condensed in his hands, and he pushed it towards Boscadora fiercely. The wave missile and the destruction beam collided violently, and the two terrifying energies clashed, and finally turned into a loud explosion. Lucario's body retreated slightly, while Boscadora showed a sign of some illusion. Dr. Jung's face changed slightly. He didn't expect that Xiaoxia's Lucario could have such strong energy. His eyes were subtle, and the controller in his hand suddenly exploded, and all the phantom Pokémon disappeared completely. What happened? Xiaoxia and others looked at each other in surprise. Before they could find the answer, the energy coordinates on the ground suddenly emitted strange energy fluctuations, and then fossil pterosaurs and other fossil Pokémon appeared in large numbers in the form of data. Why? My controller has been destroyed. How can so many Pokémon appear? Dr. Jung exclaimed. Ha ha ha. At this time, a burst of laughter suddenly sounded on the balcony on the second floor, and a person who was wrapped up tightly, and whose appearance could not be seen appeared there and said, Drive Jung, the phantom system you invented, belongs to me from now on. What did you say? Who are you? Xiaoxia asked. You can call me the mastermind of my phantom. The mysterious man sneered. What do you want to do with my phantom system? Dr. Jung asked. But this time, the mysterious man did not answer him, but let the phantom fossil pterosaur he created pounce on Dr. Jung. Dr. Jung struggled hard, but was easily caught by the fossil pterosaur, and flew into the sky. Drive Jung. Dr. Oak's face suddenly changed, but when he thought of Xiaoxia and a few others beside him, his concern prevailed and he shouted, let's go quickly. There are too many phantom Pokémon. It's hard for us to deal with them. Let's run outside first. Phantom Pokémon can only move within the range of the phantom system. Okay. Although Xiaoxia still wanted to stay and fight, he also considered Xiaosheng and the others, so he decided to run first. A group of people ran quickly towards the door. Xiaoxia and the others ran quickly and ran out first, but Dr. Roke ran slower and was also caught by a fossil pterosaur. Chapter 337 Phantom's Conspiracy. The mastermind of the phantom? Who is he? Why haven't I heard of him? Zenshu, contact the intelligence department to see if there is any similar information. Kana said. Okay. Zenshu said hurriedly, lowering his head to contact the headquarters, but after a long time, he did not get any information about the mastermind of the phantom. Lord Chaoxi, what should we do? This mastermind of the phantom is of unknown origin, and is in a full-scale battle state. Now the entire manor is in a battle state. Our Pokémon may not be able to defeat so many phantom Pokémon. Kana said. So just destroy those coordinates. Phantom Pokémon must be within the range of the phantom system to appear, right? Zahu said. Your Excellency, you mean to cut off the power. But the power supply of the phantom system is provided by Dr. Jung's own mana. It's not easy to cut off the power. Hana said. Is that so? Then continue to control the monitoring equipment and explore inside to see clearly what happened. What does this mastermind of the Phantom want to do by capturing Dr. Jung and Dr. Oak? Zahu said. Okay. Zenshu acted quickly and controlled remotely. The mosquito monitor lurking in the manor immediately took off, sneaked in silently, and soon lurked on the window outside Dr. Jung's research laboratory, transmitting the image back to the airship through the window. Phantom Mastermind, what did you do to Jung? Is he okay? Dr. Oak looked at the Phantom Mastermind and asked. You are just a prisoner now, and you are not qualified to ask me questions. The Phantom Mastermind said in a cold and arrogant voice, I hope you will give me the access password to the database of the Oak Research Institute immediately. Password? What do you want to do with my research data? Dr. Oak frowned. As the most authoritative doctor in Kanto, there are some very confidential data in his database that must not be passed on. I can use the data in a very good place and use it more effectively than you. The Phantom Mastermind said. Don't dream. I refuse to provide any information to you, a guy of unknown origin. Dr. Oak refused. He is not a fool, so he will not be so honest. Really? The Phantom Mastermind looked at Professor Oak in disbelief, and then the Phantom Pokémon in front of him, such as the Wolfhound, Hound, and Huzowl, all showed ferocious expressions. Do you think such a threat can scare me? Professor Oak said coldly, and was about to take out his Pokéball from his pocket. Just as he took it out, and didn't even release it, the Wolfhound in front showed a ferocious expression and glared at Professor Oak. Obviously, once Professor Oak intended to release it, it would pounce on it without hesitation. This is not a Pokémon duel, but there is no such thing as not being able to attack humans. Give up. There is no Pokémon in reality that can fight against the Phantom Pokémon. Tell me your password quickly. The Phantom Mastermind said. Zahu in the airship showed a disdainful expression on his face when he heard this. This phantom system is indeed unique, and he has to admit it, but to say that it is invincible is to think too much. Apart from anything else, the Mewtwo in his pocket went over, fully activated its superpowers, and directly blew up the entire foundation, damaging all the coordinates. The Phantom Pokémon didn't even have a chance to appear, let alone defeat Mewtwo. Professor Oak, why do you have to fight so hard? Pokémon are just flawed and extremely fragile creatures, just like the rock-type Pokémon Onix can't withstand the attacks of the water-type, and the water-type Kingfisher can't withstand the attacks of the electric-type. Such creatures are not perfect at all. Only the Phantom Pokémon are supreme, said the Phantom Mastermind. As he spoke, the Phantom Mastermind pulled out a control instrument exactly the same as the one Dr. Jung had just used from his pocket and said, only this is perfect. Being able to create a Pokémon that is fearless in the face of any attack, isn't it a wonderful thing? So this is what you have been planning to do. You are right, all Pokémon have different attributes, strengths, and weaknesses, but this is not the defect you said, but uniqueness. Even among Pokémon of the same kind, their personalities are different. The idea of destroying their individual characteristics is completely unreasonable. Pokémon are creatures that exist in nature, and it can even be said that they represent nature. Each of them is a unique dwelling in the world, and you must never destroy this balance. Dr. Oak reprimanded sternly. As expected of Professor Oak, this is an interesting Pokémon lecture. However, this is foolish. It seems that Professor Oak is going to use some tricks better than me. The Phantom Mastermind shook his head and was about to take action when he suddenly saw Zyozzy and a few others appearing on the monitor screen, showing an expression of as expected. Sure enough, they have escaped back. It's just right to catch them for a search. The super evolved Lucario is also an excellent research material. You go. The Phantom Mastermind looked at the Phantom Pokémon in front of him. These Phantom Pokémon all turned into light spots and disappeared directly, appearing in other places in the manor. However, after these Phantom Pokémon disappeared, a Mew flew out from behind the pillar. This is Mew. Professor Oak said in surprise, the origin of all Pokémon genes. It seemed that Mew knew that Oak was calling it, and it flew over by itself. Nice to meet you. Hello, my name is Oak. Oak greeted him affectionately. Mew also called obediently and communicated with Oak. It only called a few times before it was hit by a strong electric current and fell to the ground on the side. Failed product. It has appeared again. Get out of here. The Phantom Mastermind's voice revealed a hint of disgust. The Phantom Pokémon Magnemite beside him also launched a strong electric current attack at Mew. Mew was startled and looked at the Phantom Master pitifully before running away. Failed product. Zahu thought on the airship. Lord died. This phantom system is indeed of great significance. No wonder the organization asked us to rob it. But Lord Tide, should we take action now, or wait until this phantom mastermind gets all the information from Professor Oak before we take action? Kana said. If we wait until he gets all the information from Professor Oak, do you think we can still take him down? Zahu asked back. Kana looked thoughtful, and after calculating in his mind, he found that he couldn't. In someone else's base camp, waiting for someone to complete all the plans is really courting death. Zahu laughed. Someone else's base camp? Isn't this Dr. Jung's home? Why do you say it is the base camp of the Phantom Mastermind? Kana asked puzzled. Kana? Are you really so naive? Didn't you realize that this Phantom Mastermind was Jung pretending to be him? Zahu sneered. What? Jung pretending to be him? Kana said in disbelief. Of course. The Phantom Mastermind didn't move at all at the beginning. It was just a 3D projection. Then Jung disappeared, and then the Phantom Mastermind took action. He is so familiar with the operation of the Phantom system, and the concept and idea are exactly the same. Who else could it be, if it's not Jung, the inventor? Zahu sneered. Then why did he do this? Kana said. Why else? Isn't it clear? To steal the data, and then make the Phantom Pokémon become eternal Pokémon, replace the current Pokémon, and even dominate the world. Zahu said. Replacing the current Pokémon? You're crazy. Kana said. Their water fleet only expanded the ocean, and they didn't have the idea of destroying the current Pokémon. Who knows? Besides, whether he is crazy or not has nothing to do with us. We only care about the information in his hand. I will lead a few people to sneak in from the water pipe below to attract attention, and then you take the opportunity to go in from the top and grab all the information. Zahu said. Yes. Kana said. Phantom Pokémon. That is the content of the mastermind of the Phantom Pokémon special. This chapter seems to have been abandoned, so there is no follow-up. If you are interested, you can go to B Station to check it out. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338 Phantom Dream. Zahu led Kajiro and Hiroya to sneak into Dr. Jung's manor. As soon as he entered, Zahu saw that there were also energy coordinates of the Phantom system on the ground. He immediately sent out Golduck without thinking, and destroyed the Death Light with one move. Meowth, who had just come out of the Pokeball, was shocked and said, Boss, what's wrong? Meowth is scared to death, meow. Zahu waved his finger, and Hiroya went over to explain to Meowth. Boss, who is this Dr. Jung? Does he really want to destroy the current Pokémon? Kajiro asked curiously. There were many people on the airship just now, and some questions were difficult to ask. He really couldn't understand the thinking of this Dr. Jung. You can say that. Because he thinks the current Pokémon is too fragile and not perfect, he plans to use data to create Phantom Pokémon to realize his dream. Zahu said. This person is sick in the brain. Kajiro couldn't help but say, although there are many evil underground organizations in this world, and they have done many things that hurt Pokémon, but these organizations have never had such an outrageous idea of destroying Pokémon. As I said, Pokémon are neither good nor evil. It is only because of the difference in the owner that they will behave differently. So whether it is against an evil organization or a righteous organization, Pokémon are the best partners. Who wants to destroy Pokémon? There is only a fine line between genius and madness. In our opinion, he is mentally ill, but in his opinion, we are stupid. Zahu said. What? You still want to destroy Pokémon? Isn't this destroying me? Meow meow. Who is so evil? Boss, let's go and destroy him now. Meow meow shouted angrily. Destroy Pokémon. What's the situation? It's just an egomaniac. He thinks that the phantom Pokémon is better than the real Pokémon in all aspects, so he wants to build his own phantom Pokémon world. But in fact, the Pokémon in this world are much stronger than he imagined, and the first class gods don't bother to pay attention to him. Even now, I can destroy him without Mewtwo, Zahu said. Oh. But that's it, boss. When I see that person, I will also step on him hard. Meow. Meow meow said angrily. Okay, I'll definitely step on it for you then. Speed up and finish this. If nothing unexpected happens, we can go back to the Aqua Fleet next, and we should be able to see Groudon by then, and maybe we can even go to the Magma Team to see Kyga. Zahu said. Master, you said that the Aqua Fleet and the Magma Team have already captured Groudon and Kyga. This is impossible. Aren't they the legendary beasts that created the land and the ocean? With infinite power, how could they be captured so easily? If so, what are the Magma Team and the Aqua Fleet pursuing? Heyo, I said puzzledly. Correct a few of your misunderstandings. First, it was Kyga and Groudon who created the land and the ocean, not the Kyga and Groudon who are captured now. Second, Kyga and Groudon are in normal conditions, but if they return to their original state, it will be completely different. Zahu said. Are there more than one Kyga and Groudon? Heyo, I asked puzzledly. Of course, there must be more than one. Zahu laughed. If there was only one Kyga, he really couldn't explain the one Kyga in the Alola region that was chased by several thugs and hung up by Water Lotus. There must be big and small ones, and the small one was weak and was beaten. And it is obvious that there is more than one Rayquaza. After all, there is a shiny Rayquaza in the Hooper movie version. It can't be that Rayquaza found a legendary beast stylist and died it. Then there are obviously more than one Groudon and Kyga. Meow. At this time, a cute cry sounded. Zahu turned his head and saw a petite Mew floating there. Mew. Meow's eyes were shining, and he pulled Zahu and said, Boss, this is the legendary Pokémon Mew. Hurry up and capture it. If you succeed, you will make a lot of money. Mew? As soon as Meow finished speaking, the Pokéball with Mewtwo on Zahu's waist suddenly emitted a red light. Mewtwo suddenly appeared beside Zahu, and saw Mew floating on the side with a complicated expression on his face. After staying with Hinako for a long time, he enjoyed all kinds of warmth, and was no longer as immature as before. He was determined to fight to the death when he saw Mew, but he still felt uncomfortable when he saw Mew. Unlike the strong discomfort with Mew, Mew felt a strong sense of intimacy in his heart when he looked at Mew, as if he had met a relative. His little tail was wagging, and his little face timidly floated to Mew. Although Mew didn't hate Mew anymore, he couldn't get used to seeing Mew being so kind. His superpowers surged instinctively, and he pushed Mew away roughly. Zahu was afraid that something would happen to Mew, so he immediately reached out and hugged Mew into his arms. Mew, who thought she was going to fall hard, found that she just fell into a warm embrace. Her cute little face was stunned. Are you okay? Zahu smiled. Meow. Mew cried happily, indicating that it was fine, and then flew out of Zahu's arms. Its pink body turned in the air, but when it looked at Mewtwo, its expression was strange. It didn't know why this creature that made it feel close to it wanted to hit it. What's going on? When did Mewtwo become so weak? And why do I feel that I seem to be somewhat similar to it, more similar than last time? Mewtwo looked at Zahu and said, because this is not a real Mewtwo, but a phantom Pokémon created by data, but it is just the most special one among them. Like you, it is a creature created by humans, not willingly, so you are really the same kind. Zahu said. Phantom Pokémon created by force. There was some doubt in Mewtwo's eyes. He didn't understand what the concept of phantom Pokémon was. Just looking at this phantom Mewtwo, he actually felt a mysterious sense of closeness, but it was very repulsive to this closeness. Master, didn't that Dr. Jung say that this Mewtwo was a failure? Why is there such a special situation? Heyo, I asked curiously. Hearing Heyo say it was a failure, Menghuan turned pale and looked a little timid, as if she was recalling something she didn't want to recall. Mewtwo was keenly aware of Menghuan's emotions and looked at Heyo with dissatisfaction, with a murderous look in his eyes, which frightened Heyo so much that his face turned pale. Zahu glared at Heyo and said, what failure? Jung thinks it failed because it was the only one that didn't listen to Jung's orders. Even when Jung cancelled the status of these Pokémon just now, it was the only one that was not affected. Do you know what this means? It means that Jung can't control this Menghun, and it has its own consciousness. Kajiro said. That's right, and having its own consciousness means that it is no longer just a group of simple data, but a real creature. This is the real success. What's so great about creating a group of data? Creating a creature out of thin air is a great achievement. In the entire Phantom system, there is actually only this one that is truly successful, Zahu said. Hearing Zahu say that she was the only successful product, Menghun's cute little face immediately showed an excited expression, and she rolled around in Zahu's arms to act cute. Zahu smiled slightly, but the laughter did not last long. Suddenly, several bulges appeared on the left wall, followed by energy conversion, and Pokémon were born one by one. Then, they walked towards Zahu, and others with ferocious expressions, and Dream in Zahu's arms subconsciously shrank his body. Mewtwo glanced, then raised one hand, and the terrifying superpower spread out, running through the entire passage. The terrifying superpower surged out, and the phantom Pokémon along the way exploded directly, and turned into dots. Countless energy coordinates all exploded. The phantom system in the manor was immediately disordered, and even the video surveillance was blown up. Dream looked at the powerful Mewtwo and blinked. It was so strong. Chapter 339 The Decadent Dr. Jung. What kind of powerful person sneaked in and destroyed my basic phantom system? Dr. Jung looked at the display screen that turned into snowflakes, and said in a bad tone. This shows that your phantom system is far from perfect. Give it up. Dr. Oak said. Nonsense. It's just because my data has not been collected yet. Tell me your password quickly. Dr. Jung said sharply. Impossible. You can't scare me. I will never give you the precious information of the Institute to engage in illegal activities. Dr. Oak refused. Okay, then don't blame me. Dr. Jung's eyes were fierce. He pressed a button and the purple current on the ground rushed along Dr. Oak's legs and attacked his body. The electric shock was strong. Dr. Oak was numbed by the electric shock without any suspense. He fell straight to the ground, and his hair stood up. Although he was often attacked by electric Pokémon when doing research, the current of those electric Pokémon was often not particularly strong. Unlike this current, which was completely controlled to torture people, Dr. Oak's whole body spasmed uncontrollably. Drive Oak, I'm telling you, you better cooperate. I really don't want to torture you. Otherwise, I will increase the current several times. Dr. Jung said, operating the remote control, and the current spread all over Dr. Oak's body, not caring at all that the person being tortured was an old man. Dr. Oak endured the damage of the strong current, but he bit it tightly and didn't let go. As an authority in the academic world, his integrity is beyond doubt. Dr. Jung tortured Dr. Oak crazily, not noticing that a shadow appeared in the sky next to him. Hana and others wore hang gliders, found the right time, and rushed directly into the control room in one breath. He threw the Pokeball suddenly, and a red light flashed. The sharp-toothed fish pounced and bit Dr. Jung's hand, biting his right hand into a bloody mess, and also biting the controller into pieces. Dr. Jung still wanted to resist and operate the Phantom system, but how could the members of the water fleet who were well prepared let him succeed? Zendi, Zenshu, and several other members of the water fleet rushed over and easily subdued him, and then tore off his coat mask, revealing his true face. Jung, it's you. Dr. Oak on the ground said with difficulty. Like Zahu, he also guessed the identity of the so-called Phantom Mastermind. Yes, it's me. So what? Who are you? Why did you rush into my laboratory? Jung first yelled at Dr. Oak, and then shouted at Connor. Members of the water fleet. Dr. Jung, we didn't want to use force with you, but your phantom system was too threatening, so we attacked you. In addition, your data and phantom system have all been received by our water fleet. Connor made a simple self-introduction, and took the initiative to lead people to start downloading the data here. What are you going to do? You shameless guys, these are all my hard work and my research results. Dr. Jung shouted. So what? Now it belongs to our water fleet. As for the research results and hard work, when you tortured Dr. Oak just now, you were not much more civilized than us. Kana said disdainfully. As he spoke, Kana used the supercomputer to download all the data and record it into his memory card. No, these are all mine. Kana shouted loudly, but unfortunately, the members of the water fleet were not good people and had no extra sympathy for him. Zahu got Kana's information below and came up quickly. Seeing Dr. Oak lying on the ground, looking seriously injured, Zahu looked at Jung with a murderous look in his eyes. After he crossed over, Dr. Oak had always taken good care of him, whether in daily life or academic research work. In his heart, Dr. Oak was the person he respected the most. Now this guy dared to torture and hurt Dr. Oak. Kana took away all the information, transferred the phantom system to the airship, and then deleted all the information here, and then blew up this manor. Zahu said, "What are you going to do? This is my hard work, why do you do it?" Jung screamed. "Because you are a waste. Didn't you say that imperfect and defective things should be replaced? You are not only imperfect, but also incomplete, so in order to make better use of your information, I accepted it." Zahu said, "You will be retaliated. These materials are what both Team Rocket and Team Flare want." Dr. Jung shouted, "What? Team Rocket, Team Flare?" Zahu was shocked. This was beyond his expectation. Although he thought that Dr. Jung had the help of underground organizations, he never thought that it was Team Rocket and Team Flare. How could you get funding from two organizations at the same time? Yes, it's Team Rocket and Team Flare. They both support my plan and think that Phantom Pokémon is perfect. If you touch me, they will retaliate against you," Dr. Jung said proudly. But before his proud expression lasted long, Zenshu, who was next to him, kicked him in the stomach and spit on his face, saying, "Bah. What bullshit. Team Rocket, Team Flare, our water fleet, is the best in the world." The major underground organizations were not connected to each other, except for the upper level leaders, who knew about the underground organizations in other regions. The middle and low level cadres like Zenshu had never left the home continent in their lives, so naturally they didn't know about the famous Team Rocket in Kanto and the hidden Team Flare in Kalos. Therefore, those who threatened the water fleet with these two organizations really made a wrong calculation. However, when Professor Oak heard about Team Rocket, his face changed. Zahu was also a little curious. Sure enough, he threw the Pokeball and Jenga jumped out easily, sticking out his tongue mischievously. Seeing Professor Oak's excited expression, he stretched out his big tongue flexibly and licked Professor Oak's face. Professor Oak's body was numb again, and his expression became strange. As a professional doctor, he had an ability that he didn't know whether it was a talent or practice. He could accurately distinguish the Pokémon that attacked him. And this lick, this feeling, was right. Zahus, then the person in front of him? Looking at Professor Oak's expression, Zahu knew that Jenga had exposed himself, but he cared too much. With a glance, Professor Oak understood it in seconds with years of tacit understanding, and pretended to know nothing. Then, Zahu said to Jenga, "Jengi, use hypnosis to control him, and make him say what I want to hear." Jenga immediately became serious after hearing this, and the terrifying hypnosis wave was directly emitted. Dr. Jung was immediately hypnotized and controlled, and his eyes were dull, and he became a puppet. "What is your relationship with Team Rocket and Team Flare?" Zahu asked. "Since I was expelled from the Pokémon Association, the people from Team Rocket came to me and provided me with a lot of funds and Pokémon information. I have been working for them while studying the Phantom system. This time, I asked Professor Oak and others to come to collect enough information to create Phantom Mewtwo." Jung answered blankly. "Phantom Mewtwo?" Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly, gently patted the Pokeball containing Mewtwo on his waist, and signaled not to get excited, and then said, "What about Team Flare? I'm not familiar with them either. It was just a while ago that they suddenly came to me and said that they wanted to cooperate with me and asked me to help them translate some documents because they provided some data on fossil Pokémon. I also cooperated with them," Jung said honestly. "So that's how it is. Do you still have the documents that I asked you to translate?" Zahu asked. "No, they took them away after they translated them. They were very cautious," Dr. Jung said. "You didn't remember some of the information?" Zahu said. No, I just know that they have some actions to be carried out in Hone recently, and it seems to be near Mount Tenkiang. Dr. Jung said. Mount Tenkiang? Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly. A huge stone from the sky? Could it be that the huge stone that originated the super evolution is there? Zahu was calculating in his mind. Hearing a loud noise outside, Lucario broke through the door. Zyozzy rushed in nervously. Seeing Professor Oak and Dr. Jung lying on the ground, he immediately showed an angry expression and said, "It's you damned water fleet again. You actually hurt Professor Oak and Dr. Jung? Lucario, wave missiles. You dare to do it, try it." Zahu moved his finger, and Jenga automatically floated behind Professor Oak, making a killing gesture, which scared Zyozzy so much that he didn't dare to do it. He just cursed, "You are shameless, and you only threaten others. If you have the ability, have a Pokémon duel with me openly." Professor Oak was held hostage with an expressionless face, and he cursed in his heart, "You are so bold that you dare to hold me hostage. It's not that you can't beat Zyozzy. When you really beat me, you can talk to me about your ability. Now take all your friends and leave this manor, because I will blow up this manor in a while." Zahu said. "What? You want to blow this place up? What is your purpose?" And quickly release Professor Oak and Dr. Jung. Zyozzy said. "You are a kid. Why are you asking so many questions? In short, if you don't leave, I will do something to Professor Oak. You also know that being electrocuted is very uncomfortable, right?" Zahu said. Zyozzy looked at Professor Oak's hair that was electrocuted and immediately understood that there were probably not many people in the world who knew the feeling of being electrocuted better than him. "Okay, take your friends and go," Zahu said. "No, after we leave, how do I know that you won't hurt Professor Oak? I won't leave unless you release Professor Oak." Zyozzy threw all the Pokeballs on his body, and Suicune, King Swallow and others were all staring at him. "You still have such intelligence, not bad. At least you are not a little mentally retarded." Zahu smiled. "But do you have a choice?" "Okay, Zyozzy, you go first. Since they have a place to use me, they will definitely not let me get hurt," Professor Oak said. "Professor Oak," Zyozzy said in embarrassment. "That's it, listen to me. Besides, Jung is the mastermind of the Phantom. You have to be careful of him." Dr. Oak said. "Drive Jung is the mastermind of the Phantom?" Zyozzy was surprised. "Yes, I was saved by these people from the water fleet, although they also had bad intentions. And even if Jung has problems, you have to send him to the hospital." Dr. Oak said. "Okay, stop talking nonsense and let's go." Zahu walked to the window, and the airship pilot immediately controlled the airship to descend and move the airship closer. Zahu and Dr. Oak walked in first, and the rest of the water fleet members quickly followed. Chapter 340, Team Flare. Meow Meow Dreamy was flying freely in the control room of the airship. Although it was a special phantom Pokémon, it was not controlled by Dr. Jung, and could even leave those energy coordinates for a short time. But it could not leave the range of the phantom system. This was the first time it went to another place. Zahu smiled slightly. He input the phantom system into the airship. Now Dreamy could move freely in the airship. To be honest, he had been in the airship for a long time recently. He liked it more and more. He had already thought about hacking it. Anyway, the water fleet will not be able to jump around for a few days. Lord Chao tied. The information has been transmitted back to the headquarters. The headquarters is very satisfied with our actions this time. Hana said. "Then are there any instructions next to let us go back immediately?" Zahu said. "No, the headquarters sent a message to let us go to a base of the magnet team near Hana City to see if there is any news about Kaiba." Hana said. "You let us work again. This really doesn't give us a moment of rest. When did the organization have so few people?" Zahu smiled. "How dare I ask the headquarters decision?" Hana said. "How much information can be found about Xianqiang Mountain now?" Zahu asked. "We just use the organization's internal network to search. There are 7 mountains called Xianqiang Mountain in home continent. A peak near Hana City was also called Xianqiang Mountain in the past, but now it is called Xianfeng Mountain." Hana said. "Near Hana City? Transfer the information about Xianfeng Mountain to me," Zahu said. "Okay." Kana immediately took action and retrieved the information about the mountains near Kana City for Zahu. Xianfeng Mountain, once towering thousands of feet, with a continuous mountain range, is the highest mountain in Hone. According to legend, the ancient altar of the ancient Clantis Empire was the place where the gods were worshipped. Zahu flipped through the information, and when he saw the altar of the ancient Clantis Empire, his eyes stopped immediately. That's right, it should be this place. Change the route, go to Xianfeng Mountain first, and then go to the Magna Team base in Kana City. Zahu said. Lord died. The headquarters mission is for us to go to the Magna Team base in Kana City immediately to find Kaiga's whereabouts, not to look for Xianfeng Mountain. If we change the course like this, our arrival time will be delayed by about 3 days. Kana said. With our number, we are not big enough to attack by force, and we are not small enough to sneak in secretly. Even if Kaiga is really in the Magna Team base in Kana City, can we find him? Forget it. Go to Xianfeng Mountain first, and I will do some research. If the research is successful, it will be of great help to the water fleet. Zahu said. Yes. Kana nodded and immediately went down to arrange things. Professor Oak, who was standing next to him, was stunned. After everyone left, and only a few of them knew each other's identities, he said to Zahu, aren't you just here to be an undercover doctor and pass on information? How come you can even command the people in the operations department? And you misinterpreted the orders of your superiors. I can't help it. Beizayang and the others never contacted me, so I had to develop myself. Then, accidentally, I became a senior. I can't help it. You know how high my personality charm is. If I stay for a while longer, the water fleet will have my surname. Zahu said. Then you should leave with me as soon as you finish this. Otherwise, if I teach a student who becomes the leader of an underground organization, I will have no face in the academic world of the Alliance. Professor Oaks said. No problem. I wanted to leave a long time ago. 3 months are almost up, and I was about to leave. Besides, the water fleet and the Magna team were almost exhausted. I wanted to go back to the headquarters this time to punish them, but they didn't let me go back, and I also found something more interesting. I won't go back for the time being and use their resources to complete the Alliance's project. Zahu said. The origin of super evolution? So you asked them to capture me? Professor Oaks said. Yes, without a teacher, it would be difficult for me to study this topic alone. And if I don't do this, it would be difficult for me to get away. The current Satoshi is no longer the little guy who was easily bullied before. It's not easy for me to take down Sukune and Lucario. Zahu said. Although you two brothers have completely different personalities, you are both geniuses in Pokémon trainers. Professor Oaks said. Teacher, why do I feel so awkward when you describe Satoshi as a genius? Zahu laughed dryly. Satoshi is a genius? He has been traveling for many years, but he is always in the top 8 and top 4, and he was beaten by a rookie trainer in the Unova region. You call such a person a genius? Compared to you, he's not a genius, but compared to others, he's a genius. His birthday is next month, and he's only 13 years old, but now he has a divine beast in his hand. A beast that's not a divine beast, but is better than a divine beast. He's also been scheduled as a candidate for the next 4 Heavenly Kings. Such a person only appears once every 10 years. How can he not be considered a genius? Look how long Aju has been fighting for a position as a Heavenly King. Dr. Oaks said. Is it that amazing? I remember that Do, Kona, and Shiba were all designated as candidates before the age of 15. Do and Kona were 12, Shiba was 14, and Eigo and Takran of Sinnoh were about the same. Is it so rare that they appear once every 10 years? Zahu said. That's because the monsters of your generation are too much. Normally, they are designated as candidates when they are 17 or 18 years old. How long has Aju been fighting for the position of Heavenly King? Dr. Oak said unhappily. So, I don't dare to worry about it. Zahu grinned. Don't give me that. There are no outsiders here. How can I not know what kind of personality you have? Why are you pretending to be humble? Oak said unhappily. Okay, teacher, you stay here and cooperate with me in the research. If the research is successful, super evolution will have a breakthrough development. Zahu said. If you want to research, of course I will help you. But you should be careful not to be discovered. Professor Oak said. It doesn't matter. Originally, I wanted to go back to see Groudon and Kyogre, but now that they didn't ask me to go back, it would be awkward for me to go back suddenly. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm undercover. It doesn't matter whether I have any credit or not. At least I won't be punished. As for the Aqua Fleet and the Magma Fleet, it's estimated that they will be destroyed in the next few days. Zahu said. Destroyed? Where did you come up with this conclusion? Professor Oak said. It's an inference. Now Kyogre and Groudon have been captured, and the red and blue beads that control them have been obtained by the people of the two organizations. Next, they will definitely return to their original state. It is normal for the two organizations to be destroyed by then. Zahu said. You said they have captured Groudon and Kyogre, and also got the treasure they controlled. Then you are still so leisurely. Your mission is to stop them? Professor Oak said in astonishment. Your undercover work is meaningless. Actually, I wanted to say that there is no need to stop them at the beginning, because the efficiency of the two organizations is amazingly consistent, and they are both typical of catching them together, and Kyogre and Groudon are natural enemies. Once one appears, the other will follow and fight. Under normal circumstances, after a little fight, the two will give up, and if it is really too big, Rayquaza will fly down to stop it, so I really don't panic. Zahu said. Then you don't say it? Professor Oak said. I said it. Will anyone believe it? A group of people still have to be prepared for the worst and let me do it. Zahu asked back. That's right. What you said is all your speculation. I believe you, but others may not believe you. Professor Oak said. Okay, teacher, you stay here for a while. If my speculation is correct, then I can let you see not only Groudon and Kyogre, but also Rayquaza, and it is a super evolved Rayquaza. Zahu said. Rayquaza can also super evolve. Professor Oak said in shock. Of course, among the three beasts of Hone, Rayquaza has the highest strength, but it is also difficult for Rayquaza in its normal state to fight two beasts that have returned to their original state, so it naturally has its upgrades. I found a lot of information in a ruin, and I will send it to you later. Zahu said. So, I'm really looking forward to it more and more. Professor Oak said. Zahu smiled slightly, looking at the coordinates of a ruin shown on the airship map, preparing to land and rest at night. When the night gradually darkened and the airship landed at the ruins, Zahu saw a group of bonfires below, and a group of people in red clothes were resting by the bonfires. Chapter 341 Super Evolution Relics. Team Flare? Zahu looked at the group of people with a hint of surprise. Generally speaking, underground organizations are quite reliable and generally do not cross the line. Even Team Rocket, which spans the two major regions of Kanto and Johto, and is considered the largest underground organization in the Pokémon world, has basically not sent out any members except for Kojiro and his three companions. Team Water? Zahu recognized these people, and the members of Team Flare also recognized the identities of Zahu and his people. After all, they were coming to the territory of Team Magma and Team Water, so the people of Team Flare had done some homework in advance when they came. Now, when they saw the uniforms of Hana and the others behind Zahu, they could see clearly. It's sus, so why don't you get out of here? Zahu sneered. What did you say? A purple-haired and a green-haired woman in Team Flare looked at Zahu with a bad expression. Because it was not the headquarters of the Kalos region, Team Flare did not have many people in the Hone region, and the government relations were not smoothed out, so there were not many people coming, only about 20. The leaders are Barra and Claire. Barra has purple hair, while Claire has green hair. They are both researchers and combat officers. When they set out, Flare leader Vladily told them to keep a low profile, and not to clash with the local underground organizations, let alone misjuncture. But they are a group of people who are used to running around in the Kalos region. How can they be afraid of anything? If they are scolded by the Navy fleet after coming here, how can they still have the face to tell the news? They are not Miss Junsha, who has a big family and an alliance behind her. They cannot afford to offend her. They are also underground organizations. They can just do a job and run away. They are not afraid of the Navy fleet's investigation afterwards. You don't want to leave by yourself, right? Then I'll do it. Let's do it. Zahu decisively issued an attack order and then released Pockis and Golduck to launch the attack first. Neither Baron or Claire expected Zahu to start fighting immediately. They were caught off guard. One of them was knocked away by the water cannon of Gothorduck and hit hard on a tree nearby, almost fainting. The other was hit by the Pokispo missile and fainted directly. The rest of the Flare team members were also caught off guard. They didn't react until the attacks of the rest of the water fleet arrived. They actively prepared to fight back. Unfortunately, they were fighting in a different place and had fewer people than the water fleet. They didn't have any advantages to begin with. Now they were taken advantage of by the water fleet. In addition, Zahu, a king level opponent, didn't resist for long before they were all beaten down by the water fleet and tied up like dumplings. Lord Chaozi, what should we do next? Hana said to Zahu. They were beaten down, but what should they do after they were beaten down? Speaking of which, they had no grudges in the past or the present, and there was no conflict of interest. If Zahu hadn't said it, they didn't really want to fight. This is easy. Take off their clothes, rob them of their money and things, and take all their research equipment. Just leave them some pants to cover their shame. Zahu said. Among the underground organizations in various regions, he hated the Galaxy team in the Sinnoh region and the Flare team in the Kalos region the most, because these two organizations really wanted to destroy the world. Zahu, a successful man with a good life, a warm family, and a wife, of course hated this kind of organization that destroyed the world. The Sinnoh Galaxy team destroyed the world, and they played themselves to death, while the Flare team almost succeeded in the animation and really controlled Zygote. So there is nothing to say, just confront them when you meet. If it weren't for the fact that these people are still legal citizens so far, Miss Junsha couldn't catch them. Zahu would definitely send all of them to the police station, letting them look at the iron bars and think about life. Hana nodded repeatedly and commanded the members of the water fleet to start looting, taking things off the bodies and cars of the Flare team one by one. The members of the Flash team were furious, gritting their teeth, staring at Zahu, wishing they could skin him alive. What are you looking at? Remember, don't cross the line in the future. Zahu looked back at them unhappily and then said to Hana and the others, see their expressions clearly, the expressions of hatred. Whether you grab all now or not, they will hate you, so don't hold back. Anyway, we are not good people. Take all their Pokémons, or they will retaliate against us later. Hana and the others nodded repeatedly and took away all the Pokémons of the Flash team, leaving them completely penniless. The group of people plundered and reaped a lot. Zahu was also a generous person. He only took some precision instruments for research and turned a blind eye to the rest of the things that these people wanted to take away and didn't take it seriously. After a while, Zenshu came over with 2 stones and said, Master Chaoxing, these are the things they put away tightly. They should be the best treasures, but I can't tell what they are. Can you tell? Zahu turned his head and looked at them. They were really good things. 2 stones. One was the Mega Evolution Stone of Megalodon, and the other was the Evolution Key Stone. They are all things I need for my research. Let's give them to Professor Oak for research first. Zahu said vaguely, then looked at Professor Oak and said, Doctor, you will cooperate, right? After all, we don't want to hurt you. As long as you complete this research, I will let you go. Professor Oak nodded with a cold face, but he was very happy in his heart. Zahu could see the origin of the 2 stones, so he could see it too. Zenshu didn't doubt it, and obediently gave the 2 stones to Professor Oak. Then, they spent a simple night like this, and nothing happened. The next day, they continued their journey. After flying for half a day, they arrived at their destination. Zahu and others went down and walked to an ancient and dilapidated altar. Zahu and Dr. Oak performed the analysis and collection work skillfully and cooperated tacitly, which made Nanchuan and Kitano, who were secretly monitoring Zahu, secretly suspicious. However, they did not act for a while. Zahu naturally did not notice the small movements of Nanchuan and Kitano. He walked to the stone platform next to the 2 broken stone pillars and said with a thoughtful expression, these 2 stone pillars seem to be used to place the evolution key stone. Is the one yesterday ready? It's ready, but there is only one, and it's useless. Dr. Oaks said. No, I have another one. Zahu took out the brooch on his chest and said, you actually have this? Dr. Oak was surprised that Zahu actually had something that he didn't know. This is not important. Let's study it first. According to the records on the wooden slips, these two stone pillars should be able to find the gate together. Zahu said. Dr. Oak nodded, took out the evolution keystone he had just made, and stuffed it on the stone pillar on the right, while Zahu took the evolution keystone in the ruins, and put it on the stone pillar on the left. The power of the two super evolution keystones was injected into the stone pillars, and a dazzling light shone. Between the two stone pillars, a light film flickered, and a door appeared. Then, a suspended rock road several thousand meters long appeared, leading directly to the opposite peak. This is the door. Let's go. Professor Oak said happily. No, it's too far to walk like this. Just take an airship. Zahu smiled. Why walk if you can fly? Chapter 342 Super Evolution Boulder. Is this the last altar site? It doesn't seem to be any different from the one down the mountain. Kajiro asked curiously. Don't jump to conclusions before you see the situation clearly. What's next is really amazing. Professor Oak. Zahu walked to a place with an obvious dent for storing the evolution keystone, put down the evolution keystone, and looked at Professor Oak. Professor Oak immediately put his evolution keystone into another altar with a dent. The two evolution keystones were put down together, and the wonderful power of super evolution suddenly emerged, spreading down along the two stone pillars. The ground of the altar radiated a strange glow, as if some magic circle was activated. The members of the water fleet around them showed surprised expressions. In fact, they had no idea what they were doing here. It was just that Zahu wanted to come, so they followed orders. The surprise was not over yet. A huge stone emitting colorful brilliance suddenly rose in the center of the altar, flashing a strange charm. Professor Oak pressed his watch and simply detected the fluctuations. He exclaimed, "The power contained in this stone is indeed the same as the power of super evolution. This huge evolution stone may really be the source of super evolution." Super evolution? Master Cheotide, what is super evolution? Hana said with a strange look on his face. I won't answer this for now. You should use the machines of the Flash team to record all the fluctuation data of this boulder. Zahu said. Yes. Although Hana was a little confused, he still faithfully implemented the instructions and conducted data analysis and collection. The precision instruments of the Flash team emitted different light wave energy to collect and absorb the energy fluctuations of the strange boulder. After receiving the detection wave emitted by the instrument, the strange boulder actually shook slightly and emitted a terrifying energy that rushed straight into the sky. The originally bright sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds, and the wind and clouds surged, affecting hundreds of meters. There were flashes of lightning between the thick clouds, adding a strong sense of depression to people. What's wrong? Is the world going to be destroyed? Kajiro said with a scared expression. It's not about destruction, but a new beginning. Connor, you have finished collecting data, right? Take your laptop and go down in the airship immediately. Next, it's a world war. Zahu said. Yes. Although Connor didn't understand, he trusted Zahu and took all the laptops and got into the airship and drove down. The moment he entered the airship, he saw a green head sticking out from the clouds. He was suddenly shocked, and a terrifying name came to his mind, Rayquaza. Could it be that Lord Cheotide wanted to capture Rayquaza? This is too dangerous. Kana was full of surprise. Rayquaza in the clouds finally flew out of his body completely. The slender green body soared in the sky, and thunder rumbled. Rayquaza, the real Rayquaza, appeared. Professor Oak was surprised to see Rayquaza in the sky. Teacher, don't be too happy too soon. This Rayquaza didn't come here to make friends with us, and this Rayquaza is not my goal. Zahu said. This is not Rayquaza. Professor Oak was still a little puzzled when he saw the strange boulder suddenly emit a terrifying glow, reflecting the Rayquaza in the sky. Then, Rayquaza was illuminated by the light, and its body stretched out, and its power increased terribly. Super evolved Rayquaza. Professor Oak's eyes widened. Although Zahu had said yesterday that there would be one, how could it be as shocking as seeing it in person? He couldn't help but take out his mobile phone to take a picture of this scene as an important research material. The super evolved Rayquaza roared in the air, not knowing whether it was expressing joy or anger after the super evolution. when it noticed that Professor Oak, a human who didn't think, was taking a picture of it. It suddenly became furious. Purple light flashed in its mouth, and the exploding dragon wave burst out directly. Mewtwo, block it. Zahu expected Rayquaza's rampage, and released Mewtwo without thinking. As soon as Mewtwo appeared in the altar, he felt a terrifying force and quickly used all his superpowers to form a solid shield to resist the strong dragon wave. The two forces collided, and Mewtwo's shield finally stood firm, but it was knocked down from the sky to the ground. Who is it? Mewtwo looked up at the flying Rayquaza in the sky with a shocked face and asked Zahu. After being created, it has always been the boss of the sky and the second in command, and it believes that it is the strongest Pokémon. Later, after learning many powerful Pokémon from Zahu, and fighting with Lugia from the Orange Islands, it realized that there are still Pokémon that are not weaker than it, but for the first time, it feels that the gap in strength between the two sides is a bit big. What kind of Pokémon is this? The power obtained by the Mega Evolved Rayquaza from the boulder. See if you can get it, Zahu said. After hearing this, Mewtwo immediately stretched out a hand and used his powerful superpowers to explore the energy fluctuations of the Mega Evolved boulder, but it was bounced back after a short while. Obviously, the Mega Evolved boulder rejected it. Zahu was stunned. One of the important reasons for his research on the Mega Evolution Stone was to allow Mewtwo to have the power of Mega Evolution, but now Mewtwo was rejected. Mewtwo was also annoyed. It felt that there was an urgent energy in the Mega Evolution Stone that it needed. The energy in its body was also responding, but it just wouldn't merge with it, as if there was a door blocking it. The doubts were not solved yet. Rayquaza in the sky saw that Mewtwo actually blocked its attack, and was furious. Another dragon wave came violently. Seeing this, Mewtwo quickly teleported, taking Zahu and Professor Oak and a group of people to the side to avoid the attack, and then flew up and launched a fierce attack on Rayquaza. Although he felt that the opponent was strong, Mewtwo was obviously also a hot-tempered person and would never admit defeat. Rayquaza was slightly surprised to see Mewtwo dare to attack it. It had always been the one who had the final say in Hone. Except for Rayquaza of the same clan, even Groudon and Kyogre could only be beaten in front of it. How could this little guy dare to attack it? At that moment, its body swung, and all kinds of terrifying energy waves burst out. Mewtwo also exerted the power of its superpowers to the extreme, constantly teleporting like a ghost. Most of Rayquaza's attacks could not fall on it, and then blizzards continued to erupt. Among a group of Pokémon that all had ice skills, it naturally learned this trick. But it didn't expect that it would come in handy at this time. Although it couldn't beat Rayquaza, it wouldn't be in too much danger for the time being. Chapter 343, The War of the Gods. Boss, is this place too dangerous? Should we run away first? Meowth said, trembling as he hid behind a rock with a panicked look on his face. Just now, Rayquaza used the ultimate move of the Celestial Meteor, and Mewtwo dodged it perfectly, but they were almost crushed to death underground. If you are afraid, go back to Kagero's Pokeball. The next experiment is not yet finished. Zahu threw out two Pokeballs with both hands, and the two Pokémon Latios and Latios appeared at the same time. Yesterday, Zahu asked Mewtwo to use teleportation to help him teleport to the nearby Pokémon Center, and then exchanged Pokémon with Hanako in the Research Institute, and brought both Pokémon Latios and Latios over. As soon as Latios and Latios appeared, they felt a terrifying energy aftermath. Latios was startled, and Latios showed the demeanor of a brother to protect them in front. Zahu covered his head, not knowing whether it was appropriate to call them out. Latios, you try to get close to that boulder and see if you can super evolve, Zahu said. Although Latios's reaction was a bit weird, he didn't choose it. In Zahu's memory and what he could find, only these two could super evolve freely. Latios nodded, patted his sister's little head, and then flew over first. It felt that there seemed to be some power on the boulder calling it, and immediately shouted at the boulder. As Latios's shout rang out, the light on the boulder also changed. Soon, another ray of light shone on Latios' body. Latios made a cry that was not sure whether it was pain or enjoyment, and then bathed in the light. His body changed strangely, and when the light dissipated, it successfully completed super evolution. Latios, there is also super evolution. even though he had seen that Rayquaza could super evolve before. When he saw another mythical beast complete super evolution, Professor Oak couldn't help but be shocked. Super evolution, isn't it the evolution of ordinary Pokémon beyond the limit? If the mythical beast evolves again, is there still justice? Latios saw his brother had changed and flew over with a strange look on his face. He circled around Latios with a confused look in his eyes. Are you still my brother? Latios slapped Latios with his wings, indicating that once he was your brother, he would be your brother for the rest of his life. Latios nodded. Yes, this is my brother, that's right. Latios pointed to the boulder in front of him again, asking Latios to Mega Evolve. Latios nodded, eagerly approached, and then completed Mega Evolution in one go, and then happily flew back to Latios. Now everything is finally the same again. Latios, you guys should cooperate quickly to help Mewtwo fight against Rayquaza. Zahu shouted. Latios and Latios nodded and quickly flew up to fight against Rayquaza together with Mewtwo. Brothers and sisters are united in purpose, and their strength is invincible. Rayquaza roared angrily, swung its tail, and launched a series of attacks, but none of them hit Latios and Latios, two Pokémon with first-rate flying speed. Latios and Latios saw that Rayquaza could not hit them, so they became more confident, mastered their own powerful strength, and bravely fought against Rayquaza. Mewtwo was also full of surprise when he saw the suddenly stronger Latios and his sister. They were both legendary beasts, and they stayed in Zahu's backyard. In addition, Latios always admired Mewtwo, so they had a good relationship. It was also very clear about the strength of Latios and Latios. How could it suddenly improve now? Is it that only dragon-type beasts have a bonus? Is it discriminating against psychic-type beasts? Mewtwo was full of depression, and the strength of his attack also increased, with icy light flashing and powerful attack. The theory is still partially successful, but I don't know where the deviation is, and it has become that only dragon-type legendary beasts can super evolve. I will continue to study it later. Zahu said as he watched the wonderful battle in the sky. Master, if you can make dragons super evolve, can you also make my salamander evolve? My salamander is no worse than the other mythical beasts. Heyo, I said. That's right, and my Dragonite. Zahu said. Dragonite can't super evolve in the game, but that's because there's no Dragonite super evolution stone. But in front of this super evolution stone, everything is possible. Thinking of this, Zahu threw out his Dragonite Pokeball without thinking, and Heoi followed suit and released Salamander. Dragonite, Salamander, both of you get close to the mysterious stone, and see if you can achieve super evolution. Zahu gave the order. Salamander and Dragonite followed suit at the same time. Salamander flew to the side of the evolution stone, and a strange energy surged over it, shining, and then a strong pain came over. The wings behind him twisted together, and a surge of power spread like an explosion in his body. Roar. The newt roared fiercely, and with red eyes it rushed straight up to the sky, attacking Rayquaza. Seeing that there were still Pokémon that were going to attack him, Rayquaza became even angrier, thinking, if I can't beat one, then three. If I can't beat three, then a fourth. What do you think I am? With a roar, a violent purple light flashed in his mouth, and the shadow of a giant dragon emerged. With a move of Dragon Wave, the newt rushed straight up without any tricks. The newt was severely injured and fell to the ground. It immediately fainted, disbanded its super evolution state, and returned to its normal state. It's a waste of time to be decisive, and reporting is giving away heads. Zahu couldn't help but curl his lips when he saw the newt's behavior. Heoi listened to his master's evaluation, took back the newt, and looked at Zahu with a slightly resentful expression. Zahu ignored him and turned to look at his Dragonite, and found that his Dragonite was in a very wrong state. It was neither directly super evolved like Latios and Latios, nor was it rejected and not allowed to evolve like Mewtwo, but was in a state of neither progress nor progress. The light flashed all over its body, and Dragonite's body became much taller. The lines on its body flashed with golden light, and a primitive and terrifying power emanated from it, as if a prehistoric giant beast was awakening. But every time its power rose to the most terrifying moment, it would automatically fall back to the bottom of the valley, and then repeat itself. It seemed to be blocked by something, and could not completely super evolve. Zahu frowned and could not judge what was going on. The Rayquaza in the sky seemed to have also felt this unusual power, and its eyes became more fierce. Its slender body twisted, and a tornado dozens of meters high suddenly blew from its body and spread to the surroundings. Mewtwo's face changed slightly, and it immediately moved to Zahu's side in an instant, to protect Zahu and others. Latias also retreated quickly, watching the Rayquaza tornado set off a large storm enraged. I haven't posted anything for a long time, but today I posted something. I wanted to post something on New Year's Day and send some blessings, but I was not feeling well and had a writer's block, so I didn't post anything. Now I'll post 6 chapters first and wish you all good luck this year. Although it's a little late, I still want to say some auspicious words. In addition, if I'm in good condition tomorrow morning, I'll post more chapters. Okay, that's it. I'll go to bed, and I'll revise these 6 chapters, and write some words tomorrow. Chapter 344, The King's Idea of Asking for Leave. The storm was raging wildly, with terrifying power, crushing everything like a rotten wood. Mewtwo and Latias could only barely protect themselves. When the storm was over, everyone felt lucky to have escaped death. Zahu let out a long sigh of relief, stood up, and looked at the center of the altar. He found that the boulder was still missing as in the animation. Latias also exited their super evolution forms and returned to their original appearances while the light around Dragonite dissipated and it fell down all of a sudden, returning to its original appearance. Dragonite, are you okay? Zahu ran to Dragonite and asked with concern. Something's wrong, it hurts. Dragonite looked at Zahu pitifully. Patching your head, it doesn't hurt. Zahu touched Dragonite's big head and said as if he was coaxing a child. In most cases, taking care of these Pokémon is the same as taking care of children. Being touched by Zahu, it is not known whether Zahu's comfort is really effective or it is a psychological effect. Dragonite seems to be better and not in so much pain. Zahu said, do you feel the power just now? Can you achieve a breakthrough next time you encounter it? No, I feel that I'm blocked by something, but that power is really very strong. If I absorb that power, I will be invincible in the world. I'm not afraid of Articuno and Lugia. Next time I see Dago, I will beat Metagross with one punch. Dragonite said. Absorb. Zahu showed a thoughtful expression. The situation of Dragonite just now did not seem to be super evolution. There was almost no big change in appearance, but the body size was slightly increased. Instead, it was a bit like a primitive regression. Ordinary Dragonite naturally does not have the possibility of primitive regression. However, Zahu's Dragonite is obviously not an ordinary Dragonite. It is the only Dragonite in the world with the blood of super ancient Pokémon. The definition of primitive regression is to restore the original power of Pokémon. So Dragonite really has the possibility of primitive regression and become the same as that giant Dragonite. Zahu, is this what you meant by super evolution? Mewtwo suddenly asked. Zahu looked away and saw a sudden flash of light on Mewtwo's body. His body became smaller, but the pressure on him doubled. Mewtwo, why? Zahu's eyes widened. How come you can evolve again suddenly? Wasn't it impossible just now? Don't give me random names. As for why, I don't know. Anyway, when the long green caterpillar used the tornado just now, the energy wave of the boulder increased. I absorbed some of it, and it seems that my body genes were reorganized, so I can super evolve. But this genetic form is not stable, and can be cancelled at any time. Before he finished speaking, Mewtwo's body flashed with light, and turned back to the original Mewtwo. Mewtwo Y is not really named by me, but you have 2 super evolved forms. This is only one, and there is another one. As for the energy wave being absorbed by you and causing some problems in your body, it should be because you are a Pokémon born from the recombination of countless genes, so the impact is relatively large and unstable. After finding the boulder, I will study you again and help you consolidate your form and change freely, Zahu said. Mewtwo nodded slightly and said nothing more. Professor Oak walked to the center of the altar alone, observing the remaining situation of the boulder, frowned and said, I don't know why the mysterious boulder suddenly disappeared. If it falls into the hands of someone with ulterior motives, it will cause great harm to the world. Teacher, don't worry, the super evolved boulder will continue to appear. However, our opponents should not be humans, but Rayquaza, Kyogre, and Groudon. Zahu said. The three of them? Professor Oak said in astonishment. Yes, there is a myth about Hone since ancient times. In ancient times, the original Groudon who created the earth and the original Kyogre who created the ocean once fought, because they discovered a terrifying power. The battle was so fierce that the sky collapsed, and the earth split. In the end, they were stopped and defeated by Rayquaza who flew down from outer space. Zahu said. You suspect that the power is the Mega Evolution Stone. Professor Oak nodded and said, I'm not as good as you in the study of Hone mythology. Next, how to find the Mega Evolution Stone. I will listen to you. Teacher, don't say that. In terms of Pokémon knowledge, I'm still far behind you. It's just that I have read enough information about the legendary beasts in the water fleet. Zahu said. How old are you, and how old am I? Although you are my most outstanding student, in terms of age, you can call me Grandpa. When you reach my age, I won't be able to compare to you. Professor Oak smiled. However, when I was researching Bond Evolution, I also read a lot of information about the League's super ancient Pokémon. Some of them recorded the powers of ancient Pokémon, saying that this world had undergone a drastic change. In order to survive, the super ancient Pokémon fell asleep, and those that did not fall asleep were forced to change and give up the power they should have, in order to adapt to the new world. However, such giving up is not eternal, and all Pokémon are looking forward to regaining it one day, giving up the power they should have, in order to adapt to the new world. So super evolution allows Pokémon to restore the strength they once had, but because the rules of the world have changed, they can't exist forever. Zahu said. This is the biggest guess about Mega Evolution at the moment. Yamanashi once guessed that Arceus, the god of creation of SYNOPSIS, made such a rule before he fell into a coma, fearing that these Pokémon would find power that surpassed him during his coma. But it's just a guess, and there's no way to confirm it. Dr. Oak said. Drive Yamanashi's guess. I remember that, when he was in a meeting in Johto. In addition to this, he also proposed the characteristic argument, believing that many weak Pokémon characteristics are sacrifices made for adaptation. Just like the Holy Pillar King Regigigas, the power displayed by Regigigas several times in history was not at all comparable to the power it once bound the entire continent, and it took a long time to recover. This phenomenon was defined as the characteristic of Regigigas, which is slow start. Zahu said. The stone just now allowed Rayquaza and the others to mega evolve, and it also allowed Dragonite to almost return to its original state. If it is really powerful enough, it may not be impossible for Regigigas Pokémon to recover their true power. Dr. Oak said. But, do we have Regigigas? Kajiro said. No, it's not. It's just that this theory was proposed. There are many super ancient Pokémon bloodlines. Especially fossil Pokémon. They were originally Pokémon from a long time ago. Now, after the fossil resurrection technology, although they are resurrected, such resurrection is not perfect. Many people in the academic community believe that these Pokémon have fossil attributes because they were resurrected from fossils, so they should not have them in the first place. Professor Oak said. The characteristics are too poor, suspected to be restricted by the rules of the world. Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly. Speaking of characteristic pits, we must talk about the King of League. It has the same total racial value as Regigigas, as high as 670, the highest racial value under the legendary beast, no one else. If it is said that Regigigas was affected by the rules of the world, so that it did not have the opportunity to exert its own power, what about the King of League? The racial value of 670 is really a racial value that an ordinary Pokémon can have. What if the King of League was once a legendary beast? It was just because of some unknown changes in the world that he gave up the glory of the legendary beast and his own power in exchange for the lazy life of the entire tribe. Compared to Regigigas, who almost always sleeps in various temples, the King of League, although subdued, obviously lives a more leisurely and comfortable life. Unlike Regigigas, the King of League, Zahu has it. Zahu vaguely felt that he had grasped something very important, but before he could figure it out, he suddenly heard the sound of fierce fighting below. He quickly took out a telescope from his pocket and looked down the mountain, watching a group of people in red uniforms attacking members of the water fleet. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345. Goodbye AI Lan. Team Flare? Regroup so quickly? Zahu was surprised. He looked down and suddenly saw a pitch black Super Charizard wreaking havoc in the team. His expression immediately became subtle. In Team Flare, there seemed to be only one person who had a super evolved Charizard. Thinking of this, Zahu searched and found Alan among the people of Team Flare. He was still on the old path. Seeing this, Zahu also understood why Team Flare, which was beaten up yesterday, could suddenly suppress the people of the Water Fleet. Alan's Charizard was a gifted one. Mewtwo, help me teleport there, Zahu said. Mewtwo nodded, and superpowers enveloped Zahu. Zahu's figure flashed and teleported to the battlefield between the Water Fleet and Team Flare. Master Tide. When the members of the Water Fleet, who were suppressed by Team Flare's firepower, saw Zahu appear, they immediately felt relieved, as if they had taken a reassurance pill. Yes. Zahu nodded, and then released Golduck and Togekiss. Pockets. Contain Charizard. Zahu said. Pockets immediately understood and flew quickly. A wave missile was launched, hitting the super evolved Charizard into the sky, and then it rose rapidly, turning the battlefield to the sky. You finally showed up. Seeing Zahu's appearance, Claire and Bella were immediately furious, and issued an attack order without thinking. Thunder Beast, 100,000 volts, Dragon King Scorpion, Poison Needle. The order was issued, and more than a dozen Thunder Beasts were bathed in lightning, and terrifying electric currents shot out, like the angry Thunder God. Thunder and lightning. More than a dozen Dragon King Scorpions roared in a low voice, and purple poison needles were shot out in large numbers, as dense as rain. Gothorduck, telekinesis. Zahu said calmly. Golduck's eyes glowed blue, and the surging telekinesis roared, forming an indestructible protective barrier, freezing all the lightning and poison needles, and then with a domineering wave of his hand, all the 100,000 volts bounced back, and hit the entire Flare team and the Dragon King Scorpion. The Flare team and the Dragon King Scorpion were all numb, and cried out in pain. Then, under the effect of telekinesis, all the poison needles also bounced back, and shot at Thunder Beast. Thunder Beast's body trembled, and was collectively poisoned. Charizard, use explosion and burn quickly, rush down. AI Lan shouted to the sky. Charizard, who was being held by Togekiss, heard AI Lan's order, vibrated its wings, and immediately dived down. Togekiss, use the spin attack to hit it up. Golduck, just use telekinesis on everyone, don't worry about the Pokémon, Zahu said. Togekiss was shining with a faint glow, rising rapidly, and then falling like lightning, hitting Charizard's head head-on, and flying Charizard up. Golduck's telekinesis surged, strictly implementing Zahu's orders, bypassing the Pokémon of Team Flare and directly attacking the real members of Team Flare, controlling a group of people in the air, and then slamming them to the ground. Connor, suppress the new Pokémon of Team Flare, Zahu said. Yes. Kana and others hurriedly took action, and commanded their Pokémon to attack the Pokémon of Team Flare. Because the Pokémon of Team Flare were not under the command of their master, they were in chaos, and had almost no resistance, and were defeated by the members of the Water Fleet. After becoming the Pokémon of human trainers, Pokémon will be fully trained, and their strength will be further improved. But many Pokémon have a common problem, that is, once there is no trainer's command, they will be very weak in attack. What should I do? This guy's not ordinary strong. Claire shouted. He actually attacked the trainer directly. Shameless. Barra said angrily. You two talk a lot of nonsense. Do you really want me to throw you two into the sea to feed the sharks? Zahu said coldly. Don't be complacent. When our leader arrives, it will be your doing. Claire said. Yes, don't be complacent. Not to mention the leader. Even if Pakara comes, it will be your doing. Barra said the same. Flatterly, Pakara? Zahu frowned slightly. The appearance of the super evolved boulder was bound to cause fluctuations, but it was really unexpected that the Flare team acted so quickly. Yes, it's Flatterly and Lady Pakara. Lady Pakara is the Fire King of Kalos. You are definitely not her opponent, Claire said. That's your hometown, Callus. This is home. I have the final say. Golduck, knock it out, Zahu said. Golduck snapped his fingers coolly, and the domineering telekinesis surged, knocking both Bearer and others unconscious. Okay, next, Togekiss will knock down Charizard, Zahu said. The surface of Pokémon in the sky exuded a deep blue glow, and the phantom of the divine bird emerged, from top to bottom, fiercely attacking Charizard, knocking Charizard down from the sky. Charizard had no power to resist, and fell directly to the ground like a kite with a short line. Let's go together, Zahu said. This Charizard was quite powerful, and it would take some time for Pokémon to deal with it. Now it was not a formal competition, so why bother with the rules if we could solve it with a group fight? Seeing this, Hana and others hurriedly commanded their Pokémon, and one by one, the Iron Claw lobsters hit Charizard with a guillotine. Relying on the shameless human wave tactics, Charizard was beaten to lose its combat ability. Repeat yesterday's work, continue to search the body, continue to search the house, and then everyone will pack up, get on the airship, and return to the headquarters, Zahu said. Lord died, we haven't been to the Magna Team base in Kansas City yet, and without the organization's permission, we can't enter the headquarters base. Hana said. That was under normal circumstances. Now it's an abnormal situation. If you're lucky, it's okay. If you're unlucky, the headquarters might be demolished now, Zahu said. Demolished? Hana looked unbelievable. Who could demolish the base of the water fleet? Let's go. Zahu didn't explain too much, and walked directly into the airship. According to legend, once the Mega Evolution Stone appears, Groudon and Kyogre will automatically return to their original state and compete for it. Although Zahu guessed that there were more than one Groudon and Kyogre, if it happened to be the one caught by the water fleet that automatically returned to its original state and went to grab the Mega Evolution Stone, the water fleet might really be demolished. Looking at the decisive Zahu, Hana's face showed a bit of entanglement. As an underground organization, the water fleet has been able to survive for so long, and its organization is naturally strict. No one knows the specific location of the headquarters, and as long as you get close to the headquarters, the magnetic field will be chaotic. Only when you get a signal from the headquarters can you successfully enter, otherwise you will be shot down by missiles. And the person in charge, who goes back without authorization, will be severely punished. The current person in charge of Ziobi is Hana himself. Just looking at Zahu, who had already entered, Hana gritted his teeth and gave in. No matter right or wrong, he would follow Master Chaoxi to the end. Chapter 346, Groudon Rampage. A blue sky, cloudless, an airship passed by. Zenshu was controlling the flight, while Zahu and Professor Oak stayed together, searching for information related to the Super Evolution Stone and Super Ancient Pokémon from the two channels of the Water Fleet and the Alliance. Although the members of the Water Fleet felt strange, no one asked any questions. The airship crossed 1,000 miles, and was about to reach the headquarters of the Water Fleet. Zahu stopped his work, and stood up to prepare, but before he could stand firmly, the airship suddenly shook violently, and Zahu leaned back and almost fell. He quickly reached out, and grabbed a handle on the wall and asked, what happened? Lord Chao tied, a missile hit our airship. Hana said. Hit the airship? Aren't we still not there yet, and we are already connected to the headquarters? Zahu asked. It seems that a big battle has started ahead, and the location seems to be the headquarters. Hana looked at Zahu and said, feeling puzzled and admiring. Obviously, they are far away, but they know that there is a big battle at the headquarters. You really hit the mark, Zahu muttered, and walked quickly to the front control room to watch the remote projection. Although the picture was not very clear, Zahu could still see the cliff swords clearly. Groudon really rioted. Stop flying, don't get close, and increase the altitude, Zahu said. The pilot immediately operated. He was also startled by the missile fire just now. Fortunately, it didn't hit any vital parts, but just grazed it. Otherwise the plane might have crashed. Zahu looked down at the water fleet headquarters from a high place, and suddenly heard a rumbling sound again. He looked quickly, and saw meteorites falling and magma surging. Groudon walked out like a prehistoric monster. His thick feet stepped on the sea, and there was a path formed by magma extending from the magma. The red skin was dazzling like a burning flame. Even if the water fleet used many means, it could not stop Groudon's actions. What happened? Did Kai Yansong sneak in and use the blue pearl on Groudon? Why did its power increase so much? Shu Wutong looked at Groudon, who looked completely different from when he was locked in the iron cage before, and shouted at the logistics chief Liuz in disbelief. It's not Shu Wutong's fault that he lost his composure, but today was really too dangerous. Today, Shu Wutong worked as usual, preparing for the next operation, to steal Kyogre from the Magma team. As a result, in the middle of the discussion, Groudon suddenly returned to its original state, broke free from the iron cage, and then an earthquake occurred. Most of the headquarters of the water fleet collapsed, and Shu Wutong was almost buried in it, and couldn't get out. Being attacked is not terrible, but such an attack without any signs, made Shu Wutong very confused. And now Shu Wutong found that all the attack weapons of the water fleet combined could not do anything to Primal Groudon. Dozens of missiles were launched and hit the back of Primal Groudon, exploding with smoke. Primal Groudon roared angrily, as if it was angered by the continuous attacks of the water fleet. The explosive power like magma was brewing in its huge body like a hill. Its orange-red skin shone brightly, and the ground was cracked by the high temperature. The temperature around it broke 100. Lord Shu Wutong, it's bad. Groudon wants to use burn to the ground. Liuz said in panic. What's wrong with burn to the ground? Isn't it just an ordinary trick? Shu Wutong said, but as soon as the words fell, it knew how terrifying the power of an ordinary trick would be when it was used on an extraordinary Pokémon. Primal Groudon turned around suddenly, and the extremely hot flames from its mouth spurted out strongly, and the air around it seemed to be burned. The faces of the water fleet cadres suddenly changed, and they quickly activated the strongest protection system. A light green energy shield enveloped the water fleet and others. The high-end core technology of the water fleet was assembled. The defense ability of this protective shield was definitely the best in the world. Every member of the water fleet had strong confidence in this protective shield. However, when they really saw the flames of the original Groudon engulfing the world, they were at a loss and secretly prayed that nothing would happen. The original Groudon roared angrily, the magma in the earth was boiling, and the flames in its mouth engulfed the world. The power of death and doomsday came, and exploded with the protective shield. After a loud bang, although the protective shield of the water fleet still existed, it was shaky. There were cracks on the shield, and it was broken like a spider web. Shu Wutong's face turned pale, and he swallowed his saliva for a long time. Is this the power of the earth that the Magma team has been pursuing? In the ancient legend, Kyogre's power is not weaker than Groudon, which is recognized by everyone. But can such power really be mastered by humans? Looking at the invincible Groudon, Shu Wutong suddenly felt a sense of despair in his heart. Groudon's first strike did not break the shield, nor did it use a second strike. It turned around and walked towards the induction in the dark. It wanted to find the supreme true power and then defeat Kyogre and Rayquaza. Master Chaoshio, should we take action? Zenshu licked his dry lips and said when he saw Groudon walking farther and farther away, almost disappearing from sight. Let's go back to the headquarters. Zahu looked at Zenshu unhappily, waiting until Groudon was almost gone, asking this question again. Isn't it because he was afraid and didn't dare to take action? Okay. Hearing that he was going back to the headquarters instead of attacking Groudon, Zenshu was greatly relieved and drove the airship to land at the headquarters of the water fleet. Are you Zaob? Why did you come back suddenly? Shu Wutong looked at Zahu and others and said, because we guessed that the Groudon and the organization might riot, so we came back specially. Zahu said, guessed that Groudon would riot? What's the reason? What did you do? Shu Wutong said, this is not important. What is important is, Lord Shu Wutong, did you see the power of Primal Groudon clearly just now? Do you think that kind of power is something that humans should master? Zahu said, what do you mean? Shu Wutong frowned. Nothing. I just feel that there are some things I have to say. The water fleet and the Magma team are both aiming to pursue the super ancient Pokémon, but after pursuing them, can they really control them? If they can't control them, Lord Shu Wutong, should you give up? Zahu asked back. You are not Tide. Who are you? What is your identity? Shu Wutong said. Dr. Tide didn't talk to him in this tone. Okay, since this is the case, then I will make a formal acquaintance with Lord Shu Wutang. Zehu. Zehu removed all the disguises on his body and then drank a bottle of potion to restore his original appearance. Zehu. After seeing Zehu's appearance, a group of people were shocked, especially Kana and his group. They never thought that Lord Tide, who they had been with day and night, was not Tide. So he is the youngest doctor in the Alliance. No wonder he has profound knowledge and outstanding combat power. Quan Mei's suspicion is indeed correct. Shu Wutang said. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Although I'm an undercover, I have always been an unsuccessful undercover, and I have not done anything to your fleet. On the contrary, I have helped you with your research, and saved Quan Mei and others. Zehu said. It's because we are too well protected. You can't pass the message out. Shu Wutang said. Can't pass it? Zehu raised his eyebrows and looked at Shu Wutang and said, I really feel uncomfortable looking up at you now, so it's better to let you come over. Mewtwo, help. Zehu threw the Pokeball, and Mewtwo appeared beside Zehu, and then his superpower surged, instantly moving Shu Wutang to his side. Chapter 347 Dispersed Boulder Energy. Master Shu Wutang, don't worry. I don't mean to hurt you. I just want to talk to you. Zehu said. What do we have to talk about? Want to attack me? Although our strength has been damaged because of Groudon, you want to kill me, but you have to pay a price, and the other members of the water fleet will not let you go. As for other things, we don't have anything to talk about. Shu Wutang said. Yes, disband the water fleet. Zehu said. Did you forget to take medicine? Shu Wutang said. How could he disband his hard work? No, in order to make my disguise perfect, I take medicine every day, and I never stop taking it. I just drank a potion in front of you. Zehu made a small joke. You established the water fleet to find Kyogre, but Kyogre has the power that is no less than Groudon. Do you have the ability to tame him? Groudon and Kyogre represent the will of nature. You and the Magma team will only bring danger to yourselves and the world if you try to control them. This has nothing to do with you. Shu Wutang said. Although Groudon's strength just now was indeed beyond his expectations, it was impossible for Zehu to say that he would disband it with just a few words. Okay, let's change the topic and talk about cooperation. How about it? Zehu said. Doctor of the Alliance, cooperate with me? Shu Wutang sneered. In the face of disaster, there is no distinction between us. We are all human beings, of the same class and race. Groudon has returned to its original state here, so it goes without saying that Kyogre and Team Magma must have also returned to its original state. He must be stirring up trouble now, and then the century-long battle between the two mythical beasts will inevitably come. If one is not handled well, the entire Hone continent will suffer a great disaster. So I need your help. Zehu said. What help? Shu Wutang frowned. The Red Pearl. Zehu said. You are dreaming. Shu Wutang's face turned stern, and he refused angrily. The Red Pearl is the key to controlling Kyogre. Only with it can he control Kyogre and achieve the goal of the water fleet. Even though the base was destroyed by Groudon just now, he still has such ambitions in his heart. You don't agree? Then can you give me all the super ancient Pokémon information and props except the Red Pearl? And give me the other airship? Zehu said. Except for the red bead, the rest of the things are of no value to me. If you want to give them all, I can give you this airship, and even Zyobie and the people in the ship-to-ship research room can be lent to you. Shu Wutang said. Now you are so straightforward. You have conditions, right? Zehu said. That's right. Your alliance has inserted people in our fleet, and you must have inserted people in the Magma team. Now that Groudon has gone berserk and left our base, Kyogre in the Magma team must have also rioted. I want to know Kyogre's information. Shu Wutang showed a sinister expression. You still want to use the red bead to control Kyogre? I advise you not to dream. The principle of the red bead is just to use ancient energy to temporarily restore Kyogre's ancient power, and then at this moment, put the will of humans above the Pokémon, and then use it to control Kyogre. But the original return has been completed, and your red bead can't control Kyogre at all. Why bother? Zehu said. This has nothing to do with you. Shu Wutang said. Deal. Zehu nodded, contacted Oki Jincheng, and then got the expected answer. Kyogre also ran away and is now turning the tide in the sea. Let's go. After Shu Wutan got the news, the entire water fleet came out in full force. Are you really sure to let them try? Just for the information of the water fleet, you came here specially? Professor Oak looked at Zahu in surprise. The success rate of the experiment is almost zero. Of course let them try. Only after experiencing failure will these people realize how meaningless their goals are, and it will also make the Hone region more peaceful. Zahu said. You still care about the mission. You are really competent as the Hone champion. Professor Oak said. What's competent about it? I've been undercover for a long time, and I don't know what I found out. It's a mess from beginning to end. I also deceived some people. I'm sorry, Connor, Shinshu, Shindy. Zahu turned to look at Kana and his group, and called out their names one by one. Tide. No, Master Zahu. Kana looked at Zahu, opened his mouth, and said after a long while, although I know that we will never meet again, Master Zahu, you saved the lives of several of us. Without you, we would have been stuck in the ruins. I want to say that you will always be the best leader of our Zyobie team. Zahu was stunned for a moment, turned around and looked at the others, and found that they all had the same expression. He grinned and said, you are also the best team members I have ever led. Next, let's complete the last mission. Yes, Master Tide. Kana said. Okay, Kachiro, you release Meowth, and then I will give you 1 hour to repair the airship, and make the most suitable improvements for you. Hiroya will connect with Bakuma, and Shinmi will cooperate with my teacher, Professor Oak, to conduct research. Then, Dr. Toyama, please help me detect whether there are similar fluctuations in the entire Honsea area. Zahu nodded and made arrangements. Meowth jumped out of the Pokeball eagerly. It had been bored for a long time, since it stayed in the Pokeball. When it heard Zahu's order, it looked at the airship of the water fleet and smiled excitedly. Boss, this guy who exploited me all day finally has money to buy himself an airship to play with. He jumped into the airship comfortably and started all kinds of magical decoration journeys. Drive Zahu, I have discovered that the special energy fluctuations appeared in 3 places at the same time, namely, the waters of Kansas City, Pallet Town, and Liuli City. Dr. Toyama said as he looked at the several energy fluctuations on the screen. 3 places? Zahu said in shock. Are you kidding me? It's just a huge rock. How can there be 3 places? Yes, there are 3 places. And according to our energy monitor, Groudon is now in the waters of Liuli City. That energy fluctuation must be on Groudon. Dr. Toyama said. One of the energies is on Groudon? Zahu looked sideways. Part of the power of the huge rock is on this Groudon. So is Kyogre now in the waters of Kansas City or Pallet Town? Drive Toyama, can you analyze and compare the energy fluctuations in the waters of Pallet Town and Kansas City? Which one of them is constantly moving? Zahu said. Okay. Dr. Toyama nodded and agreed. Although he was a member of the water fleet, he was just a pure worker. For the salary of the water fleet, he was not opposed to helping Zahu. On the contrary, he was also very interested in searching for super ancient Pokémon. After spending more than half an hour, Dr. Toyama said, it is the energy fluctuation in Pallet Town. It is now leaving the waters of Pallet Town, and its path is exactly opposite to that of Groudon. And according to their speed of movement, they will reach the waters near Kansas City in about 3 days. So the end point is there. Thank you, Dr. Toyama. Zahu turned around and said, hey OI, contact the Alliance Carders for me to see if the 4 Heavenly Kings are all dead. If not, send a few over. Chapter 348, Team Flare's Connection. Master, I really can't find Dago, Mikali and my dad. They don't seem to be in Hone right now. On the airship, Hiroya looked at Zahu with an embarrassed look on his face. Well, it's expected. If we talk about the strongest 4 Heavenly Kings, it's our Kanto. But if we talk about the least reliable 4 Heavenly Kings, it must be your Hone. Zahu said. Hiroya said with an embarrassed expression. So, Master, President Doc Ranley asked me to tell you that you are the only champion of Hone now. You and Professor Oak are fully responsible for the matter. The security forces in various regions will also cooperate with you unconditionally at this time. In short, just blame me. The problem is, don't they worry that I can't handle it well. What happened to the top leaders of your Hona alliance? Zahu said. Master, I also had this doubt, but President Darkranli said that you can go from a doctor to the actual leader of Ziobi in such a short time, and you are very good, whether training new people or going on missions. In addition, Mr. Oki Jincheng and Dr. Oki can make up for your lack of experience, so I'm completely relieved to let you come. Heyo, I said. In short, it's irresponsible. Why did I agree to it so stupidly? If I had known this, I would rather bear the punishment. At worst, I would not be a doctor and start from an assistant, and I would not get involved in this muddy water. Zahu scolded. Heyo, I shrank his head and dared not say more. Okay, it's useless to scold you, and you can't give me an answer. There are still 2 days, and we can still prepare. Zahu looked at Heyo's expression, shook his head, and was too lazy to scold him anymore. Boss, I have a question. Kyogre and Groudon are both primitive monsters. If they get together, they might cause a big explosion. Why don't we just attack Groudon and Kyogre now? It will definitely be less stressful to do it now. Although we won't get the Mega Evolution Boulder, the lives of the Hone people are definitely more important than the lives of the Hone people. Kajiro asked curiously. Do you think that others can't think of what you think of? The question is, how do you know that, after dealing with these two Kyogre and Groudon, there won't be another Groudon and Kyogre? God knows how many Groudons and Kyogre there are. In addition, fighting with these two Pokémon will definitely cause a lot of trouble. In order to avoid being affected, the battle must be held in an open area, and the sea is the best choice. But they just went to the empty waters of Kansas City. Even if they were to fight, it would not have much impact on ordinary people. So, why stop them? Zahu asked back. Oh. Kajiro nodded. Master Zahu, there is a signal coming from the outside? Should we answer it? Kana asked. External signal? Answer it. Zahu said. The call was connected, and the light screen flashed. A middle-aged man with orange-red hair like a flame lion appeared in the light screen, with a beautiful pink-haired lady and Alan beside him. Hello, Dr. Zahu. Let me introduce myself. I'm the head of the Fladderly Research Base in the Kalos region. Fladderly. This is Pachira, the Fire King of Kalos, and my subordinate Alan. The middle-aged man with the Fire Master hairstyle said to Zahu. Fladderly? I don't know why Mr. Fladderly came to see me. Zahu frowned and said. There are 2 things. First, my men had a conflict with the people of the Water Fleet. After our research, we found that it was related to the group, that Dr. Zahu was undercover. I hope Dr. Zahu can return our things. Second, the mystery of the Super Evolution Stone is endless. Our Fladderly Research Base has been studying it. We can be said to be experts in this field. So Mr. Oki Jincheng specially invited us. We also think that we can help each other and exchange information and intelligence with each other to help the people of the Hone region. Fladderly said. I'm here to help the Hone region on behalf of the Kalos Regional Alliance. The people of the Fladderly Research Base have indeed studied this clearly. Only with his help can the losses be minimized. As a member of the Alliance, I remind Dr. Zahu that it is better to cooperate. Pakira said. Are you threatening me? Are you saying that, if I don't return it, you will not show your help to the Hone region? Zahu said. It is our obligation to provide help to people in difficulties. No matter what Dr. Zahu does, we will not change our plan. Fladderly said. You are so great and selfless, but I have already handed over the things I robbed from you. You can go and negotiate with Shu Wutang. As for your help, sorry, I'm not interested. In addition, from now on, your personnel should not enter the waters of Kansas City, otherwise it will be regarded as an invasion crime, regardless of life or death. After Zahu finished speaking, he hung up the call directly. Let the Flash team come to help take away the Super Evolution Stone. Besides, how much help can you provide? In the animation, your key research on the stone has been intercepted by me. Now you want to come to me to get the information about the Super Evolution Stone. Forget it. On the Flash team's airship, Fladderly looked at the hung up communication. His face slightly darkened and said, has any of us had a grudge with this Dr. Zahu? I can clearly feel his rejection and hostility towards us. Representative, I have met Dr. Zahu before, and he has always been very approachable during the process of getting along. Now I don't know why. Alan replied, and his left hand subconsciously touched his empty wrist. In the previous battle, his evolution keystone and bracelet were taken away by Zahu at once. Maybe he is a black sheep because he has been undercover in the water fleet for a long time and cannot return to normal life. Or maybe he is just greedy and shameless and he wants to take possession of good things when he sees them. But no matter which one it is, the things must be taken back. Other things can be ignored, but the super evolution bracelet must be taken back, said Fladderly. Representative, I'm sorry, it's my fault for not protecting the super evolution bracelet well. Alan said with a guilty look. Facing the champion of Hone and being shamelessly beaten up by a group of people, it is reasonable to have the super evolution bracelet taken away. There must be punishment, but this is after getting the super evolution bracelet back, said Fladderly. Yes, Representative. Alan nodded. But, Fladderly, what do you want to do next? The current Hone champion Zahu didn't give us any face, and he represented Hone. With our current strength, he will definitely die in the Hone region against the Hone Alliance, said Pakara. If Zahu can't get through, we can go to the Okijin Castle. Apart from this, we have no other choice. We have already lost a lot of opportunities. Now we must be the first to get the Mega Evolution Boulder, Fladderly said. But now the power of the Hone Alliance in the waters of Kana City is extremely strong. Even if we get it, it will be difficult to leave, Pakara said. Don't we still have Groudon and Kaga? After fighting these two super ancient Pokémon, how much of their power is left? As long as we escape from here and return to the Kalos region, what can the Hone Alliance do to us? Fladderly said. Although the alliance is one, the people of the Hone Alliance still cannot cross regions and can only let the people of the Kalos Alliance take action. In the Kalos region, Fladderly is absolutely confident that he can keep the boulder after paying something. That's right. Pakara did not deny Fladderly's idea. Sitting nearby, he saw another communication coming in. He clicked it casually, and the image of Okijinching came over. King Pakara, be careful. According to your flight path, you will now pass through Kaga's flight area. Shu Wutong is now trying to tame Kaga. You better be careful not to be affected. Before Okijinching's communication was over, the airship that Fladderly and others were riding on suddenly shook violently. Fladderly and others hurriedly looked out the window and saw Kaga jumping out of the sea with clear white light flashing on his body and root fluctuations erupting. Chapter 349 Ancient Power. Zahu drove the airship of the water fleet at high speed and arrived in Kansas City one day earlier than Groudon and Kaga. He led the people of the water fleet and went directly into the headquarters building of Duin Manufacturing Co. Limited. Although the alliance also has an organization in Kansas City, Duin Manufacturing Co. Limited is superior to the organization in Kansas City in terms of rich information and equipment. Because Dago cheated Zahu, President Zifachi generously lent the company headquarters to Zahu temporarily. It was just that a few members of the water fleet were embarrassed because they had come in to steal before, but they didn't expect that they would come in as guests openly. Hello, Zahu baby, I finally see you again. When they walked to the upper floor, a familiar voice sounded, and then Zahu saw a big man named Bakshan rushing over with open arms. Don't come on, go away. Zahu dodged unhappily. What are you doing? We are evolutionary partners who are undercover in the water fleet together. Bakshan said. Get lost. It's been 3 months. I'm the only one undercover in there, and you haven't sent out any messages or instructions. As for partners, the ones behind me are all good, and they are more loyal than you. Zahu said unhappily. I should say that to you. You agreed to be an undercover scientist in the laboratory, but you went to explore the ruins. When we contacted you, we didn't know where you were. We almost thought you were discovered and arrested, and we almost wanted to organize people to rescue you. After finally coming out of the ruins, you didn't return to the laboratory, and all our contacts with you were cut off. Beiziang said. It's not that I don't want to go back, it's that the water fleet didn't let me go back. These should have been included in your calculations, but the calculations were incomplete and unprofessional. Zahu complained. Unprofessional? You are complaining about Bear. Stop talking nonsense. Now is not the time to talk about this. What's the situation with Groudon and Kaga now? Zion wanted to refute, but Zahu interrupted him directly, walked to the front of the central controller, and said after watching the display, from the movement trajectory, it should be tomorrow noon when Groudon and Kyogre meet in Kansas City. The vicinity of that sea area has been alerted. It has been isolated. In addition, Minister Oak, Red Flame Pine, Water Wutong, Mr. Fladderly, and King Pakara will be here soon. The person next to the controller said. Kenji, an alliance cadre, is responsible for the daily life of the champion. He is Zahu's direct subordinate, but except for the photo, this is the first time Zahu has seen him. How did they get together? Zahu asked curiously. Because on the way, Shu Wutong wanted to control Kyogre, which resulted in Kyogre's riot. A tsunami broke out in the Green Ridge Sea, and Mr. Fladderly's airship happened to pass through that sea area, and was affected by Kyogre's route fluctuations. Fortunately, Minister Oak and his men helped to stop that tsunami, and saved Shu Wutong. Kenji said. What a coincidence. What about Kai Yan-sang? Zahu said. During the time when Minister Oak was undercover, he became friends with Minister Oak, and now he has agreed to disband the Magma Team. Kenji said. Ah. Kai Yan-sang agreed to disband the Magma Team? Zahu said. After witnessing Shu Wutong's failure to control Kyogre and almost being buried in the sea, he decided to disband the Magma Team. Kenji said. The Magma Team is about to disband? Kana's eyes lit up. If this doesn't mean that Hone will be the world of their water fleet in the future? Less interruptions, more research. Zahu glanced at Kana, who lowered his head obediently. Although he had nothing to do with Zahu now, he had become accustomed to it after 2 months of getting along. You just said you witnessed it. Didn't Brother Jincheng and Chi-Yan-sang see Shu Wutong committing suicide from beginning to end? Even Chi-Yan-sang wanted to see if Shu Wutong could succeed. If he succeeded, he would control Groudon himself. If not, he would exchange good treatment with the Alliance and disband the Magma Team. Zahu said. No, after discovering that he couldn't control Groudon, Chi-Yan-sang felt that he had lost his goal. So the only condition was that all the people in the Magma Team were legal and good citizens. Xianxi said. You only denied the second half of the sentence, so I was right about the first half. Zahu said. Your Excellency is wise. Xianxi said. In other words, the mission was actually successful in theory, although it was purely an accident. Zahu said. It was a success after all. Xianahu, nice to see you again. The voice of Oki Jincheng sounded from outside, and the door opened, and a group of Oki Jincheng and his people strode in. What was even more unexpected was that Xiaozi and his people were also inside. Xiaozi, how did you guys get back here? Zahu asked. We went to challenge the Green Ridge Gym, and then we encountered a tsunami. I asked Sukyun to stop it, and then we met Uncle Oki and his people. I knew something was going on here, so I came here to help if I could. Xiaozi said. You are really passionate about charity. Zahu nodded. As expected, wherever there is a big event, Xiaozi is there. Turning to Shu Wutong, he said, are you willing to give up now? Shu Wutong took out a red round bead from his arms, threw it to Zahu and said, the red bead you asked for is for you. Zahu took it with one hand and asked curiously, your thing is still there? Wasn't it destroyed by Kyogre? It was fused with me before. I didn't die, so it naturally didn't break. Anyway, it can't control Kyogre, so it's useless. Shu Wutong said. And my blue bead, I'll give it to you too. Kai Yansang threw the blue bead to Zahu and said. Give me both of these two treasures. Zahu smiled and looked at the two beads in his hand. The crystallization of the wisdom of the super ancient civilization, the mythical beasts he used as controllers, the super perception gained by the fusion of two souls, plus the unique ability given by the super ancient Jigglypuff, makes him have a strong insight, although not as good as the power of Wava Guide, but it is very close. Therefore, Zahu can clearly feel the terrifying power contained in the two round beads, the vast power from the ancient times, one as vast as the sea, and the other as hot as volcanic magma. Similar to the Mega Evolution Stone, but with a more powerful power. Zahu held it in his hand, and a strange feeling arose. The two beads suddenly merged into his body, and an explosive and fanatical power suddenly rose. Strange runes appeared all over Zahu's body. The left half of his body was red, and the right half was blue. The terrifying power burst out, and several people in Okijincheng were caught off guard, and were blown away, falling heavily to the ground. Groudon and Kyogre, who were thousands of miles away, were shocked and looked in the direction of Kanaza City. The desire in their eyes became stronger, and their speed soared, rushing madly towards the sea area of Kanaza City. Chapter 350, The War Between Continent and Ocean. Zehu, how are you? Are you feeling okay? Dr. Oak looked at Zehu, who was half blue and half red, anxiously. It seems fine. Zehu opened his hands. His left hand was red, as if a ball of fire was burning, and his right hand was blue, as if a sea tide was surging. His body shook slightly, and Zehu's eyes moved, and both eyeballs turned into a strange combination of one red and one blue. Brother. Zyos, he called timidly. Did his brother mutate? Why? Are you afraid that I will eat you? Zehu rolled his eyes at Zyos in annoyance, but looking at his hands, he was also puzzled. Boss, do you want me to dissect you? Meow meows. Two cats stared at Zehu without blinking, as if there was a golden light flashing. Zehu rolled his eyes in annoyance, raised his foot, kicked Meow Meow in the face, and kicked him away. Zehu, Meow Meow's words are rough, but the truth is not rough. Can you check it in detail? Dr. Oak said. That's right, Mewtwo, come. Zehu threw a Pokeball and released Mewtwo. Mewtwo just came out of the Pokeball and looked at Zehu's strange appearance. He also showed a surprised expression for a moment. Have you mutated? Mewtwo, please use your superpowers to check my body. Zehu said. Mewtwo nodded and raised one hand. The majestic but gentle superpowers penetrated Zehu's body and checked everything. Superpowers are the most practical attribute among all the major attributes. Mewtwo held Zehu up in one hand. The superpowers penetrated and penetrated, which was more accurate than X-rays. It was only halfway through the detection. A strange force suddenly appeared on Zehu's body, ancient and vast, and directly bounced Mewtwo's superpowers back. Mewtwo's eyes flashed with blue light, and released another superpower to form a shield in front of him, which offset this force. You have 4 kinds of energy in your body, all of which are very strange. I don't understand. Mewtwo said. 4 kinds? Zehu raised his eyebrows. Aren't they just round beads? Where did the 4 powers come from? 2 kinds of 1. When Zehu was full of doubts, the Pokeball on his waist suddenly flashed red, and Dragonite's huge figure appeared directly in the room, with a height of nearly 4 meters, almost touching the ceiling. Dragonite? What's wrong? Suddenly appeared, Zehu said in surprise. You have something delicious. I want to eat it. Dragonite said. Delicious food. Don't be silly, I'm busy now. Zehu said. I'm not playing. There is something very delicious in your body. If I eat it, the evolution and super evolution will not be half evolved. Dragonite said. In my body? Zehu was thoughtful. Among the 4 powers, 2 can be clearly identified. One is Kyogre's own power, and the other is Groudon's own power. Of the remaining 2, is one of them a power that awakens the ancient power of Pokémon? If so, can it be used to make Dragonite return to its original state? Zehu's eyes sparkled, and the appearance of the super ancient Dragonite had already emerged in his mind. Master Zehu, Minister Oak, Groudon and Kyogre's movement speed has suddenly increased. In half an hour at most, they will reach the nearby sea area. Kenji's nervous voice suddenly sounded, breaking Zehu's fantasy. What? Zehu quickly leaned over, and found that the energy points representing Groudon and Kyogre on the screen suddenly moved quickly. If the movement speed just now was that of an electric car, it has now increased to the speed of an airplane. Half an hour is still an optimistic estimate. If it speeds up again, it will take less than 20 minutes. Everyone get on the airship and fly to the sea area of Kanazu City, Zehu said. Zehu, you are in a special physical condition now, so stay here for now. Professor Oak said. In terms of the degree of understanding of the 3 beasts of Hana and the Mega Evolution Boulder, who here can compare with me? If I don't go, can you solve it stably? Zehu asked back. Okay, Dragonite, you come back first. Everyone get on the airship. Zehu took back Dragonite and walked directly onto the airship. Professor Oak had no choice but to follow. The airship took off again, departing from the headquarters of Duan Manufacturing Co. Limited. The distance was not far, and it would take less than 10 minutes to arrive. However, even at such a short distance, Zyozzy and his companions could feel the temperature rising. The rising temperature only proved that Groudon had arrived here. There is an unidentified object moving rapidly in the sea. Kenji stared at the energy detector and shouted, but before he finished speaking, Primal Kyogre had already jumped out of the sea, with bluish white spots flashing on his body, and the terrifying energy attacked Groudon directly. Groudon did not move, and took it all. A large amount of water mist burst out around his body, but his body did not move at all. His eyes turned fierce, and his hands swung violently. Red energy spikes rose from the sea level out of thin air, and attacked directly. One stone pillar hit Kyogre's abdomen directly, knocking Kyogre back into the water. The two old enemies, although they have lived together in the land of Hone for an unknown period of time, have never been friends. When they meet, they only fight. As soon as they met, they offered each other their own special moves, the Root Wave and the Cliff Sword. Groudon succeeded in one strike and immediately pursued the victory, not giving Kyogre a chance to fight back. His orange-yellow skin was boiling like magma, and his huge mouth opened. Rocks mixed with flames roared out, and each rock fell towards Kyogre like a meteorite. Kyogre had just landed in the water, and could not fight back in time. He quickly formed a solid blue protective shield around his body. The two completely different forces clashed fiercely in the sea, immediately raising huge waves of hundreds of feet. The energy aftermath was vented horribly, and the airship that Zehu was riding was hit hard and almost blown away. A group of people in the airship held onto whatever they could find and barely stood firm. Master Zehu, Professor Oak, the energy expansion rate in the sea has further increased, and the crystal density has accelerated accordingly. It has begun to solidify. Kenji said. Is it really an energy boulder? Zehu looked at the two beasts, Groudon and Kyogre, and saw a ball of glittering phosphorescence floating on the sea level. How long do you predict it will take for the boulder to be completely formed? Zehu asked. Based on the intensity of the battle, it should be half an hour. Kenji said. In less than half an hour, Kyogre will defeat Groudon. Kajiro shouted. Zehu and his friends looked over and saw that the originally rippling sea had been frozen into frost and turned into a silver white. Even Groudon was frozen by the ice. Kyogre jumped up and was about to swallow the boulder energy that had not yet been completely condensed. Boom! Just as Kyogre was about to succeed, Groudon roared and broke the ice forcefully. The hot and explosive magma energy once again burst out in a physical form. A cliff sword hit Kyogre, knocking Kyogre to the ground again, and then he rushed towards the boulder. However, before he could eat the boulder energy, he was blown away by Kyogre's super water cannon. The two prehistoric beasts fought frantically for the energy of the boulder. Kyogre leaped over the sea, and the biting cold burst out from his body. The ice froze, as if he had reached the South Pole or the North Pole. Groudon was frozen by Kyogre many times. Groudon did not show any weakness. He roared angrily and blasted out countless cliff swords, breaking the ice again and again. Every time Kyogre tried to attack in close range, he always gave more domineering and intense close range battle, throwing Kyogre away. This is the supreme power of the ocean, the origin of life, and the supreme invincible power. Shu Wutong looked at Kyogre, who was fighting with all his strength, with a fanatical expression on his face, just like a monk seeing the Buddha, a priest seeing God. Bullshit. The power of the land is invincible. No matter how much the seawater spreads, the expansion of the land continues. Didn't you see it? In the battle, there is more and more land under Groudon's feet. Kai Yansang, a staunch supporter of the earth, immediately retorted after hearing it. Stupid guy, your Groudon can't beat Kyogre at all. The victory of this battle must belong to Kyogre. Shu Wutong also retorted. Enough, are you two idiots? At this time, you are still arguing about which is stronger, the land or the sea. Although there is no way to know what kind of changes will happen to Groudon and Kyogre after eating the boulder, it is definitely not a good thing. Zehu scolded angrily. Shu Wutong and Kai Yansang are both old enough to be Zehu's father. As the leaders of the two major underground organizations of Hone, they have always been self-centered. They have never been scolded like this. They want to refute without thinking, but before they can refute, they suddenly see Zehu burst out with red and blue light, followed by a strong suction from below, and Zehu's whole body broke through the door and flew out. Zehu. Professor Oak stretched out his hand to catch him, but he caught nothing. He watched Zahu fly straight into the center of the fight between Kyogre and Groudon, the center of the giant stone energy crystals. Zahu was caught off guard by the sudden change, and tried his best to break free and take out the Pokeball on his waist, but when he flew to the energy center, his whole body was stiff and unable to move, like a puppet stone sculpture. Then, a strong bluish-white light burst out from Kyogre's body, blasting Groudon away, and then opened his huge mouth to swallow the giant stone energy including Zahu. Zahu's eyes widened, and he saw a dark scene in front of him. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.